My boyfriend admitted to cheating on me via Instagram, as I literally caught him in the act of messaging other girls. But now, after I dumped him on the spot, he's demanding that I give him another chance, putting me in a situation where I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, to start things off, we've been together for almost 3 years, and I genuinely never thought anything like this would ever happen. For reference, we were really close. We spent most of our time together, we were always hanging out, and I even had his physical location for over a year just because it was convenient for both of us. Because of that, I know this was not some full secret second relationship or him physically cheating in person. Like, that almost makes this feel weirder somehow because our relationship felt normal and solid. We were actually getting to the point of moving in together. And honestly, I am so relieved now that I was stalling. I trusted him completely. I was never the type of person to like check his phone or question what he was doing. But basically, he was using his phone to look up something and Safari was already open. I just so happened to catch a glimpse before he switched tabs, and it was some random girl's Instagram page. For context, we both deleted Instagram back in like April of last year because we both had goals of being on social media less and being more present with each other. So this is already incredibly annoying. What's also weird is that I had randomly felt insecure about his Instagram that morning for like no reason, which almost never happens to me. Even in the first few months of us dating, I had this weird gut feeling, and I even told my mom about it. Like, I really thought he was messaging other girls on Instagram, but I just blame my own insecurities because I had no real reason to think this. It was honestly so random. So in this moment, I felt the need to speak up and asked, wait, who was that? The second I said it, his whole energy shifted. He immediately got weird and defensive. He was like, what, you want me to go back? And I was like, yeah, go back. He had already switched to Google on that tab, so he went back, but started saying stuff like, I don't even know her. It's not like I've messaged her. And that immediately made my stomach drop because who even says that unprompted? So I said, okay, well, let's see your messages then. I clicked towards his Instagram DMs and I barely even saw anything before he completely lost it. He started snatching the phone, getting rude and defensive and angry, and even blaming me for even looking in the first place. Seriously, his reaction was so extreme, and honestly, I immediately knew something was up. Meanwhile, the whole time he kept repeating, I'm not doing anything bad. So I was like, okay, then why can't I see it? Well, he refused to let me look, and a short while later admitted that he's been direct messaging girls and replying to their stories. And my God, that was more than enough for me, and I ended it right there. And now he wants another chance and is acting devastated, but you know what? I'm done. I'm just gutted because I genuinely never saw this coming. I feel so deceived. I really thought I knew him, and I really thought we were building towards like a future together. I think I just need people to tell me that I'm not crazy for ending a 3-year relationship over this, because my gut is telling me that if this is what he admitted to after freaking out that hard, then there is probably more going on. I'm honestly just really sad, and I just don't know what to do now. Okay, I think anybody having this extreme of a reaction when you're like, hey, what's that? Where you're like, hey, I saw an Instagram up on like this other tab, what's going on? Like, for him to start screaming and getting angry and freaking out, like, yeah, that's like an admission of guilt in and of itself. I don't care who you are. That is proof right there that he's doing stuff that he shouldn't and he got caught in the act. Which is a shame because you guys have been together for 3 years and here he is cheating. And yes, he was cheating. He didn't like sleep with anybody or anything like that, but this is the beginning stages of that crap hitting the fan. Like, this is what you do to lead up to that. So yeah, he was absolutely going behind your back and talking to other girls, and that's inappropriate. And I think you're right to be like suspicious of like what those messages had said, because he's already been going through like weird links just to make sure you don't see it, even having like a separate tab open on a browser that he probably thought you would never look at. Like, this just screams sketchy, and yes, I'm trying to hide something. So no, you're not crazy for breaking up with him. I think that really is the smart decision here, because his reaction alone is more than enough of a red flag for anyone to be like, okay, I'm out of here and I'm not coming back. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My entitled neighbor owns the driveway we both use, but he's now demanding that I pay for 100% of the maintenance. And despite the fact that I tried to negotiate with this guy and somehow make him see reality and have some kind of like reasoning in what he's doing, this guy refuses to hear me out and is now demanding that I pay for everything. And at this point, I'm starting to lawyer up because I seriously just don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I recently bought a house last year and with it gained an entitled neighbor. The neighbor in question is someone who I will call Rick, and we've had this on ongoing dispute over the driveway. Now, here's the thing. Rick owns the driveway, but I have a legal right-of-way through it to access my property. Except Rick doesn't just casually use the driveway. He uses it constantly for his business. We're talking deliveries, trucks like UPS and FedEx. Also, he has lots of visitors, and the mail truck comes by and uses it daily. I've literally documented him using it multiple times a day. I have a Nest camera on my driveway 24/7 because I seriously felt like I was entering some alternate reality where facts were becoming optional. Now, here's where the entitlement really enters the arena in a Subaru Outback. First, I ask that he pays 50% for plowing. We're in a city in Vermont, so there's a snow problem, right? Well, he claims I'm demanding too much because he uses the driveway so little, and apparently I have 2 units on my property. And yeah, I had to buy a duplex. It was literally going to be sold out from under us. I don't make any income from my tenants either. They're my friends, and one of them is battling cancer. I'm not like a slumlord. However, Rick owns 4 properties, 1 condo, a private pond cabin, plus his house and his personal little man-child cave next to my place. He then counters the offer by saying a fair 15% would work, but I say no. He gets deliveries and pickups for his kid, and he has his one and only friend come over and sing horribly at 9:30 at night. He reaches out again to ask if I accept his offer, but I don't even respond. He then responds that since I didn't respond to his 15% offer a second time, he's decided that I should be responsible for 100% of the maintenance. Not even a 50-50 split, not proportional to actual use and not just plowing. The wildest part is the entitled confidence. There's no discussion or negotiation, and even just bypasses my pointing out that he gets delivery trucks all the time. And he's just got this energy of, oh, I have decided reality works this way now. So has anyone ever had a neighbor where they have rules for pretty much everyone else except for them? And yes, in case you're wondering, I'm attempting to find a lawyer. There's nothing in the deeds other than right-of-way, and the previous owners never got anything in writing. So I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, I hate neighbors like this, dude. This guy sounds like a complete jerk. Also, I'm just gonna be honest, he's giving off major boomer energy, and I'm really sorry to make that assumption, but seriously, this fits the bill, dude. This weird, psychotic entitlement, this kind of rationale of oh no, you're gonna pay for everything because you didn't agree with me. It's like they look at certain political figures and they're like, oh, if it works for this person, then it can work for me. Either I get my way or you're gonna suffer. Bro, you definitely need a lawyer for this one. This sounds insane. It sounds like you're dealing with a literal man-child who is just not going to listen to anything you're doing. They're not going to listen to reasoning when it's yeah, you have to pay 50% for plowing. You both use the road itself, and plus it's your road. This all just seems incredibly unfair and just really stupid. So hopefully this works out for you because this really would drive me crazy. I hate people who act like this, especially for problems that can be fixed very easily. Today, I just found out that my husband has been lying to me about his work hours, specifically that he basically chooses to work less, even though he's been blaming outside circumstances that I found out don't exist. And right now, I am so pissed off. I seriously don't know what to do about this because I seriously feel betrayed and I just don't know how to handle this. Here's what's going on. Okay, for starters, my husband of 7 years has always worked in the trades. He's great at what he does and has told me on multiple occasions that he feels happy and fulfilled in his career. He works for a small building company that is locally owned and it pays pretty well. However, as you all know, it's getting increasingly harder and harder to make ends meet these days. We live in a very expensive city and things are getting pricier and pricier. I should also note, I work a full-time job, 40 hours a week, and I frequently pick up overtime shifts on my days off so that we can have a little extra money for trips or fun activities, stuff like that. But over the past year, there have been less and less hours for my husband at work. He frequently comes home from the job site early, citing weather challenges or that the client didn't have anything for them to do. He will tell me that the boss put it to a vote and most of the crew decided to call it a half day because of the heat or the rain or the cold or whatever might be going on. He would say, oh, we showed up to the site and there was no work, so we just called it a day. This has been a constant source of frustration because working less than 40 hours on the regular really stresses the budget. However, I realize this is out of his control. Sometimes I have brought up finding extra work, but my husband always just shuts this down. He says he's so happy at this job that he couldn't imagine finding another one, or he just doesn't believe a side hustle exists that would fit into his schedule. This total shutdown of any consideration has led to quite a few arguments. Well, his company also takes an entire month off every winter, and this is something that his boss decided. It's over the holidays, which means that not only do we have the stress of less holiday money, but my work is especially busy during this time. And this has eventually led to resentment, but again, it's outside of his control. So eventually, dear dear internet, we're at a company party or like a picnic event this weekend when I learned directly from his coworker that what he has been telling me is a complete lie. There have been no votes to call it early due to weather. He made that call on his own. There's been no half days because there's no work. Just I volunteer to go home early since we have too many people today. Also, the lovely holiday month off. Guess whose idea that was? In fact, he brought it up at a staff meeting with the exact words of "I want a month off." And this is only after his boss asked pretty much everybody what they thought they should do during like the winter slow months. And seriously, I'm completely speechless that my husband could be so shockingly lazy and selfish. I'm feeling very angry and frankly repulsed. So seriously, how do I like have a conversation about this without my eyes glowing red? Because right now I am so pissed off that I just don't know how to handle this. Bro, I would be losing my mind if this was me. Here you are trying to like work to make ends meet. Meanwhile, your husband's like, "Oh, I think I'll just take a day off. We don't need to work the full day, do we? Hey, in the wintertime, let's take a full month off." Like, bro, what are we talking about? You're literally wasting time and just being lazy for no reason. You're being selfish and you're not thinking about your wife at all, dude. Like, holy crap, I would be resentful towards him as well if I was in that situation. Like, this sucks. This really sucks for the original poster. And it's especially crappy because he's just completely lying to your face. Like, sure, I can understand taking time off when you're like feeling burnt out or like something like that, but this guy's just willingly saying, "Oh yeah, I just want to start taking half days." Even just taking 31 days off of work just because. Like, what are we doing, dude? The least you could do is just show up to work and be like, "I'm gonna sit here and get paid to do nothing, and we're gonna make ends meet, and we're gonna have rent money." Like, that's what I would do. Like, holy crap. So, to the original poster, this is completely unacceptable. Please don't take this sitting down. This is craziness. Your husband should be working just like you're doing. And I'm not saying he needs to break his back, but good lord, at least pretend like you want to work for a living, because the way he's acting right now is completely unacceptable, and it's putting you under undue stress that you really shouldn't have to deal with. My girlfriend is constantly making fun of everyone and everything in front of her. And after dealing with this for so long, it's honestly gotten really exhausting and very tiring. And at this point, I just don't know what to do about it. Here's basically what's happening. Okay, for a bit of context, we've been together for a little over a year. My girlfriend has this habit of making fun of everyone, and it's getting to be a bit much. For example, we were watching a soccer game and the goalie was squatting and she said that he looks like a frog. Some other people had a supposedly funny name and she laughed at that too. We have classmates at university she constantly complains about and makes fun of for like the smallest things. And if we go outside to walk somewhere and she hears other people talking or on the phone and they say something out of context, she just looks at me and laughs. She once saw a guy on the metro station leaning over a railing above us on his phone, which is something completely normal, and she literally laughed at this, saying that he looked weird. If we go on holiday, she laughs at how the language sounds. She calls others cringe all the time and follows unwell people on Instagram just to laugh at them, which I don't really get and seems like such a waste of time. But the thing is, it's all starting to affect me. I used to think I was a pretty positive and accepting person, and I now find myself sometimes being very judgmental towards others for like the smallest things. I notice I'm also very reluctant to be myself around her because I'm concerned that she'll judge me. I'm aware that this is just her being herself as well, but it's getting tiring. I brought up this topic before and she got upset and started crying, saying, "You make me seem like I'm a bad person." So I hesitate to do so again. I notice that whenever I don't react to these things, like today for instance, she gets quiet and visibly upset, which she denies being. I realize that she might feel ignored, but I don't feel like laughing at the same joke that she said 100 times already, or whenever I hear a stranger say something in a funny accent. So seriously, I need some advice. Like, has anyone ever been in this situation? Because this really does feel like it's gone on too far and I just don't know how to handle this. Okay, in my opinion, anybody who describes someone as, "Oh, this is just the way she is, this is her personality," or if someone owns it and says, "This is just the way I act," like that in my opinion is a cop-out because that is not true. You're choosing to act this way, and your girlfriend is no different, dude. She's literally making the choice to be a jerk all the time. And in my opinion, yeah, your girlfriend's a massive jerk. She makes fun of people on Instagram who are unwell. She laughs at people on the street and says, "Oh wow, these people are weird," making fun of other people's languages and their accents. Like, I don't know about anyone else, but like that seems really mean and unnecessary. I can understand like the occasional like, "Oh, that was funny," but to do that to literally everyone, like holy crap, that's an entirely different level of like judgmental I don't think I've ever witnessed in my life. Because you don't need to act like that. Like, what's going on right now? She literally just doesn't respect other people at all. And I think it might be worth understanding that she's probably not going to change anytime soon. It also might be one of those scenarios where she's trying to be funny and so she's looking for you to get a reaction reaction. And so when you don't give a reaction, she's like, oh man, he hates me. I'm not getting the reaction I want, so now I'm gonna get quiet and be upset. And I don't think it's because she's like ashamed of what she said. Instead, I think it's a situation where she's more upset that you didn't react to it, which is probably what she's looking for, which in my opinion is like even worse, dude. She doesn't even feel bad about this. So in my opinion, I think this is one of those things that either it does get fixed pretty quickly and she changes her behavior, or you break up with her, dude. I mean, I hate to put it so bluntly, but like, I don't know, this really seems like a line in the sand for me at least. I know if I was in your shoes, I would be like, dude, you have gotta stop. This has really gone on too far. You're being very mean and unkind to people for no reason. Because I don't know if anyone else remembers high school, but people who acted like this in high school were some of the most miserable people to be around. Yeah, they would get a laugh amongst these other miserable fools, but all of them collectively just hated life. And just like you're experiencing right now, where you're like, oh man, I'm becoming judgmental too. Like if you're not careful, your girlfriend's gonna drag you down this hole with her, and it's gonna make your life incredibly miserable. So yeah, man, the choice is yours, dude. Either stay with her and try to make it work, or break up with her. But if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be breaking up with her. Am I the jerk for humiliating my ex's new girlfriend in front of our friend group? After I clapped back at this new chick when she literally called me some terrible names, all because of a cosplay I wore at a convention. Because now there's this big controversy about this in our friend group, and I honestly just don't know what to do about it. Here's what's happening. Okay, to kick things off, I broke up with my boyfriend around 8 months ago. And for reference, I'm a 22-year-old female and my ex-boyfriend is 24 years old. We decided to mutually call it quits and parted in pretty good terms, which is good because we just so happen to share a friend group together. After a rough patch, I decided to start taking a bit more care of myself. I was eating better, going to the gym, going to therapy. The shift was pretty evident, both in my attitude and in the way that I looked. My friends said that I looked happier and healthier, and I began gaining confidence little by little. Now, I'm a huge nerd. I play Dungeons & Dragons weekly. I have thousands of hours in my favorite video game, and I like to cosplay as a hobby, and this will be much more relevant to the story than anything else. Now, most of my old cosplay involve characters that don't really show their face or their body too much. Stuff like Hornet from Hollow Knight, Mono from Little Nightmares, etc. But since I've been feeling more confident, I decided that for the big convention in my city, I'd like to try something different. Well, a friend of mine then convinced me into going as Viper and Chamber from Valorant. So for the past 6 months, we've been pouring most of our free time into the cosplays. 3 weeks ago, I sent a picture of me wearing the cosplay to a group chat, asking for feedback for like the final details, and my ex-boyfriend immediately direct messaged me, asking me to please not wear that cosplay to the convention because it might make his new girlfriend uncomfortable. I then asked him, okay, well, what would make her uncomfortable? But he refused to elaborate. Now, I knew he was dating someone new, but I didn't know she was coming with us to the convention. I tried to explain to him that this was the work of months, and I couldn't just throw it all away just because of a girl that I'd never met who might be uncomfortable about it in some weird way. In the end, I wore it to the convention, and it was a huge success. I tried to keep my distance from the larger chunk of our group because my ex and his new girl were with them, but we did spend a good part of the day with them. Throughout the whole thing, the new girl kept making snide comments at me and was even laughing when I got asked to like pose for pictures. Everyone looked incredibly uncomfortable, but you know what? Nobody said anything. After leaving the convention to go have dinner though, another friend of ours asked the new girl if she wouldn't like to try cosplay as well. Her answer was, and this is really where things start to kick off, well, why would I need more attention from guys? I already have a boyfriend. I'm not a lady of the night. And when I heard this, I snapped. I then told her to stop acting like a pick-me idiot just because I got attention all day. And when I said this, she started to cry immediately. My ex-boyfriend then steps in asking me to apologize. So I tell him, okay, I'll do it, but only if she apologizes for the way she's been acting around me all day. More and more of our friends started to join the screaming match, and it gets so bad that we ended up getting kicked out of the restaurant. Well, fast forward and it's now been 5 days. My ex is saying he's gonna leave the friend group if I don't apologize. And if I'm being completely honest, I wouldn't even care if he did. But the only thing that's holding me back is that some of our friends are asking me to do it just to keep them from leaving. So should I cave in and apologize, or am I justified? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, this guy's an idiot. He literally is just caving into his new girlfriend and acting like, oh, I really need you to not wear that Viper cosplay. My new girlfriend's not gonna like it. And it's like, dude, how about you reel in your girlfriend and be like, hey, you need to not act like that towards my sex. We're still friends. There's nothing between us. I like you and not her. Or do something like that instead of being like, you need to apologize. Like, no, bro, she needs to apologize. She's acting crazy. She's sitting there trying to act like the original poster is trying to get their ex-boyfriend back. But it's like, no, you're literally just cosplaying. Which, by the way, I am a big proponent and like advocate for people wearing whatever they want at conventions. And just because someone wears a cosplay that might be like a little revealing, it doesn't mean they're trying to pick up a bunch of guys. It just means they're sharing their art. Like, come on, it is not like that, dude. And it's pretty obvious this new chick just doesn't understand that and refuses to see it from that perspective. This is all about sharing art. It's not about like getting attention from boys. So with that in mind, and the fact that your ex-boyfriend absolutely knows this, he should be ashamed of himself for even asking you not to wear the Viper cosplay, but also for even beginning to justify this behavior from his new girlfriend. Like, holy crap, this is unacceptable. Because if she was gonna act like this all day, then she should have stayed home. So no, you're not the jerk at all. This entire scenario falls on your ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend because their behavior sucks and they're the ones humiliating themselves, not the other way around. Today, I got a message from my husband's supposed mistress informing me that my husband has been cheating on me with her. And right now, I'm honestly devastated by this news and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I'm currently out of town and I got a follow request both on Facebook and Instagram from a girl. I get a few of these regularly, but with this one, I somehow had this weird gut feeling. Now, instead of accepting her request, I messaged her asking if we had known each other somewhere, to which she replied, well, we don't. She then said that she understands that it might be awkward, but she would like to discuss something with me in person as soon as possible. Now, since I'm out of town and she is a complete stranger, I said, well, let's just discuss it online. But it's here that she dropped the absolute banger of a news that apparently this news was about my husband. And I immediately knew that the worst is coming. She said that he is cheating on me and that I deserve better. She said that it's not continuing anymore as he did break up with her today. However, she told me that it started a few months ago when they first met online and then met in person. And also, she knew that he was married because he told her. She was asking why he is cheating and why he got married in the first place, to which he replied that he felt pressure from the others, which is really weird because we've kind of been together for like 10 years when he proposed. He also apparently said that marriage is just a big, expensive party and nothing more than a piece of paper. I then asked her why they broke up, and she told me that because he is basically happy in our relationship and he doesn't want to risk it anymore. She then said that he was visiting her place when I was coming late from work and even had sleepovers when I was out of town. Now, after hearing all of this, I told her not to tell him that I know, and that I'm about to confront him in person once I'm back home. Now, just to give a bit of background, we've been married for 5 months, and now I'm finding out that he basically started cheating on me right after that, still telling me that he loves me in the process. And at this point, I feel so betrayed. I thought I found my person, and now it's all gone, and I feel like I'm getting back to square one in life. I mean, I even told him that I want to start a family next year. I have no idea what to do after I tell him I know everything, because I literally can't even cry. I just have this hollow feeling in my chest and this feeling of numbness. I also have no idea why she would tell me now and not sooner. What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster actually has some updates, and this is what they had to say. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I was wide awake the entire night, reading absolutely everything and pretty much chatting in some of my DMs. So seriously, to everybody who commented, thank you so much. I also already had a scheduled message for her, and it said the following. I was thinking about what you said yesterday, and the only thing I'm missing in all of this is any kind of evidence. I mean, this is a really big accusations, and words are against words. And yes, this is what I want to send, but I decided not to send it. Firstly, at the moment, I'm not able to handle seeing any proof or evidence with my own eyes. I just can't face this yet, and I don't want to know any of the details. I never wanted her to reach out to me and throw her burden on me instead of carrying it herself. Secondly, I know my husband, at least to a point, and believe it or not, he is kind of a sensitive and caring person. I know once I drop it, even without evidence, he is not going to gaslight me, and he definitely will admit it. If he would start saying that it's not true, then I will just demand to look through his stuff, or I would reach out to her to get some evidence. But at this point, talking to her brings out so much anger and anxiety in me. Now, here's the thing. I know he will be asking me how my weekend was with my parents, and I'm going to tell him that I met some childhood friends and actually made a new friend, and that he wouldn't believe what happened to her. She found a married guy that she was supposed to spend her weekend with when his wife was traveling, but he broke up with her instead. And so she decided to tell his wife. And plot twist, you're the guy, I'm the wife, and my friend's name is the name of the girl who reached out to me. And then I'm gonna wait after I say this for him to process it, and then I'll start having a conversation. Now, we've known each other since we were like 17 years old. I consider this man to be my best friend. In fact, I was just rereading the vow that he wrote me and thinking of the past few months about how there was nothing wrong, basically. He didn't give me any bigger clue to worry about anything, and in fact, he bought me my favorite flowers last week just like that. So with that in mind, I honestly just don't know what I'll do yet. It's also up to him and how he approaches this whole situation. Now, I know to a majority of you, I will look naive and stupid, not learning from my lesson, but for me, the marriage is something so sacred and something that I've wanted with him since day one. And so for me, it's really hard to just let it go without trying any kind of counseling. Maybe the end is inevitable, and I'm just prolonging something that will come eventually, but I can't see myself making any decision in this state of mind because right now I'm just not sure what to do. Okay, this is the weirdest one I've read in a while. Are you kidding me right now? You mean to tell me you have someone who could provide you evidence for your husband cheating on you, and you want to sit there and be like, no, I don't want to look at it. He loves me so much. He got me flowers. I don't want to lose what we have. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? You don't have anything. Like, your husband is being accused of cheating. That's not an accusation that just comes out of nowhere, dude. Like, if I was in that situation and I found out my significant other was cheating from some random Facebook message, I would be like, okay, you need to prove it. Show me pictures, text messages, or anything. Like, literally show me proof that this is happening and I will absolutely bring this to my husband. But for you to sit there and be like, oh, I was gonna send it, but now I'm not going to. Like, that is so dumb. That is so unbelievably dumb in my opinion. Because either this lady is lying or your husband is actually cheating on you. And I would much rather prove this lady wrong than be like, oh, well, we'll just never know the truth. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you're like, you're probably gonna think I'm naive. Because yeah, I think the original poster is absolutely naive. And if you really want to find any kind of closure and actually know the truth, then sending a message to this lady for any kind of evidence is like the only way to make that happen. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not disclosing my medical history to a stranger after they asked me the very intrusive medical question about how I became an amputee? Here's how it all went down. To start things out, I'm a 27-year-old female and I'm an amputee. Ever since my amputation, countless people have asked me what happened to me. At first, I wasn't bothered by it, and sometimes I would even poke fun by saying like a shark bit it off or some other random story. However, as time progressed, it began to upset me more and more. I would get stopped in the middle of a parking lot, stopped in a busy aisle of the store, stopped on my way to and from appointments, etc. But the part that bothered me the most is that they didn't even have the decency to introduce themselves. They didn't make small talk or even ask my name first. Like, children are actually infinitely more respectful than these grown adults. Well, one morning I was outside a hotel and I was smoking. And right away, this lady came outside and immediately asked me, what did you do to lose your leg? Mind you, it is literally 6 o'clock in the morning. So I said to her, you haven't said good morning, hello, or even asked my name, and yet you somehow feel entitled to my medical history? Would you like that if that happened to you? Now, after I said that, she started cussing me out and said that I was a rude jerk. So am I the jerk for saying this and feeling this was way out of line? Because at this point, I seriously have simply had enough. No, you are not the jerk. This is absolutely uncalled for. And it's really crazy to me that adults really do act like this. Like, what is wrong with people? Why would you ask that of someone you don't even know, man? You can't just walk up to someone like that and be like, this is fine. I'm sure they're gonna be really happy about me asking this very personal question. This isn't a strange request at all. Like, come on, dude. That is so frustrating, it's not even funny. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. I think you could have been way harsher because this lady was completely out of line. Am I the jerk for telling my close friend that the vacation that she won is actually a straight up scam? Because right now she's pissed off at me and I really just don't know if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's happening. So I have a close personal friend that's been dealing with a lot over the last few months. I won't go into details, but let's just say if anyone deserves a vacation to the tropics, it's definitely her. A little over a month ago, she signed up for a drawing to win a free vacation to the Bahamas. We have been talking about doing something like that for our birthdays because her birthday is so close to mine. Well, she got a text message saying that she won yesterday and texted me all excited about it. But after she told me, I did some digging and I found out the vacation isn't really free. Like, the only free part is the room at the resort, and even then you're still on the hook for taxes and fees. Nothing is included. Not the airfare, no drinks and food. So I just flat out told her that it was a scam and they were most likely trying to get her to buy something like a timeshare. And now because I said this, she is pretty upset with me. So seriously, with all that in mind, am I the jerk for telling her and saying that, hey, this is a scam and you need to look out? Because she is super pissed off and I just don't know what to do. Okay, no, you're definitely not the jerk. If anything, you're a good friend because you told her straight up exactly what's going on. You could have easily sat in the background and been like, okay, whatever, this is not my problem. Have fun on your scam vacation and keep me out of it. But no, instead you spoke up and you said something and you were like, okay, this is a scam and you need to look out. And based on what you're describing, it seems like she has like a bad hand in life right now. So if anything, she's probably just like shooting the messenger instead of actually being mad at you. Like, I'm sure after like a week of sitting on it, she'll be able to be like, okay, yeah, it was a scam and I'm sorry for treating you that way. Like, I know that's how I would react if I did have this reaction initially, and I was excited about going to the Bahamas for like a vacation, especially one that I thought was gonna be free. So no, you're not the jerk, and honestly, I think you did the right thing. An entitled scalper screams at me after I kindly offered him money so that he could buy me Pokemon cards. But thankfully, a few weeks later, I got my petty revenge by going above and beyond just to ensure that this guy didn't get exactly what he was trying to buy. Here's how I did it. So a few weeks ago, a new Pokemon set released, and unfortunately, I was working when the vendor came. So a huge line forms and I offer the guy who was first in line some cash to grab something for me. And for reference, I work somewhere that sells Pokemon cards. Now, instead of just saying no to me, he instead shouts out, "No, I'm not grabbing anything for you." And he does this in front of like 20 people. Now, I don't know if he was trying to embarrass me or what his plan really was, but I was just like, oh, okay, and then I just moved on completely. Well, fast forward to yesterday, and I was able to be the first person in line for a restock, and guess who's behind me second in line? Because yes, you're right, it's that guy who shouted at me a few weeks ago. It's at this point he starts talking to me and apologizes for not grabbing me anything, and then says he was just trying to get this one item for his kid. Which is like, yeah, right. He then makes a subtle hint at the thing that he wants to buy in hopes that I don't grab it instead. So the vendor stocks the stuff and there's 4 of the item that this idiot wants. He's like, oh nice, there's 4 of them. So fast forward, and at this point it's been like an hour and we're all standing there with a line behind us waiting to be able to purchase these cards. But when the time eventually comes around to buy from the shelf, I decide to grab all 4 of the items that this guy wanted to get. And I did this literally so he wouldn't get anything. Now I really need to clarify, I am not a scalper in any way, shape, or form, but I will say I am very petty. If you're gonna be a jerk to me a few weeks ago and then give me some bogus apology, all in some weird attempt to try and play buddies with me just so you can get whatever you want, trust me, it's only gonna end in you receiving absolutely nothing by the end of it. Okay, there is so much I could say about this subject matter because buying Pokemon cards nowadays is impossible. There are so many factors that pretty much led this community in this direction because people who act like this and try to act like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna grab anything for you, who are probably just scalpers without any kids that are just gonna sell this to anybody who's willing to buy it. Like, these people are the ones who are making this hobby impossible. And that truly is not fair. It's not fair across the board, man. So for me, this story is so satisfying because you know for a fact the guy standing behind the original poster 2 weeks later 100% was a scalper trying to get some item they can sell online or some other crap like that. So good for the original poster for getting back at them because their behavior absolutely came back to bite them in the butt. An entitled customer decides to get mouthy with me after they called into my company to try and get some technical support. So I decided to get some petty revenge by putting them right back in the call line, forcing them to wait for God knows how long until someone else would finally deal with them. Here's what happened. Okay, so I used to work for a major satellite provider. I really hated that job because they had the most toxic environment you can imagine. When I worked there, they had like a 60% turnover rate within the first year of employment. People would call me up and say just the dumbest crap ever, which made for great conversations at home. Occasionally, you would get the super entitled customers whose time you're definitely wasting, and they're just way too important to talk to the likes of you and me. But that's when I discovered a button on my computer screen that would put them right back in the call queue for God knows how long. So I answered the phones one day and I said, "Thank you for calling, I'm operator 123. How can I help you today?" This entitled customer then says to me, "Your crappy, idiotic service is out again. I'm tired of you guys constantly trying to charge me to fix my equipment, and I want answers right now." I responded back by saying, "Sure, I'd be happy to help out. Can you please tell me a little bit about your issue?" The entitled customer then says, "The TV won't play. The service is too expensive and I hate you for existing." So then I would respond and be like, "Okay, no problem. I'm super happy to help you with this issue. Let me just put you on the briefest of holds while I review your records." Then at that point, I would press the button. Crappy jazz music's playing, the company's saying that they're happy you're calling us and that their call is very important and that we will answer in the order received. But basically, the moral of the story is don't scream at the guy behind the phone. simply because your stupid stuff isn't working or whatever. Because trust me, I don't care, and if you're gonna be mean to me, then I'm gonna press my screw you button, and you're gonna be placed right back in line. But either way, I'm sure I pissed off a lot of people, but I'm also sure that I just don't care. I still giggle at what I imagine was their confusion, and then super angry disgust when they ended up right back in the call queue. Because if you're going to mess around, you better be ready to find out. Oh man, I love that so much. I wish there was something like that when I worked at a call center, because holy crap, you can get some of the weirdest customers on planet Earth, dude. Like, oh my god, that is so frustrating. I really wish I had something like that. That would have been so nice. So good for you for doing that. Honestly, I don't think I would feel any regret either, because some customers are straight up crazy. And I think putting them back in line for their terrible attitude and their bad behavior really is a fantastic punishment, especially if they're going to be belligerent. My entitled coworker complained I didn't have more free clothing that she could pick from, as I was literally just trying to do a good deed for someone by helping them out and giving them clothing that they could actually use for work, resulting in one of the most annoying situations I've ever been in, as she literally decided to be the most entitled person on the entire planet, making me regret ever reaching out to her or even trying to be nice to her in the first place. Here's how it all went down. Okay, for a bit of context, I work in what's essentially a community mental health setting, and this is a place that has a focus on substance mistreatment. As such, we get a lot of interns, most of whom are paid for their work, and we keep quite a few who pass muster, which honestly is a lot of them. And in fact, that's how I started last year. We have very little turnover, but a large amount of clients, so we tend to have room. But right now, we have an intern who is literally trying on everybody's patience. She leaves the break room a mess regularly. Dirty dishes on the table or in the sink, food and messiness on the table, empty wrappers left around, etc. She also failed her course last semester due to not fulfilling her hours, so now she has to repeat. But regardless, we all show grace because she does have a disability. I'm not sure what it is and I refuse to ask, but she did mention freely there's little pain and mostly just has difficulty with gross motor skills. But either way, we don't make any kind of judgment or assumption about her work ethic, and maybe she just had some bad days and just couldn't make it. But the messes that she would make though are hard to be patient with, because what's so hard about tossing wrappers on the way out of the kitchen? She literally has to walk past the can on her way out, and apparently it's the same way when she uses our common office spaces. Despite clear and easy access to garbage cans, she leaves her food and wrappers on tables and desks. We've tried politely mentioning it, but she makes some kind of excuse like, oh, I forgot, or she'll say that she'll just do it later. But honestly, it's like whatever. It's easier for us to handle it at this point because we don't know her struggle. But with all things considered, she's routinely complained about not being offered a job yet. I sympathized and asked if they had said a firm no yet, but she said no, but also that our supervisor was harsh about her notes. I then offered to help her out, to which she said yes, and when I took a look, holy crap, they were dreadful. She was copying and pasting notes from other clients, which then led to several errors, including the patient's diagnosis, their race, and genders. And that's a huge problem since we work in the mental health field, and insurance can already be a nightmare to deal with, even when we do our work right. I guided her through it, but she became frustrated and said it was way too confusing. The other coworkers in her department gave her guided outlines, and they did it in layman terms. But it's the same thing over and over again. She would say it was too hard and too confusing. And it's like, girl, how do you intend to do this as a full-time job for a government agency? Which, by the way, that's literally her goal. But again, we're trying to show grace. We don't know what it's like for her, so we're just trying to show repeated patience and guidance. And we literally are trying to treat her the way that we want to be treated. Well, that is until today. Now, for a bit of background about me, I am a thicker lady, but I wear nice clothing to the office. I've personally found some good sellers and decent manufacturers, usually at around like $50 as average price, or $20 or so on clearance, which is how I tend to snag some good deals. Now, this girl is closer to my size and asked me where I shopped, to which I then told her the various places and prices. But when I told her, she said, oh, that is way too expensive. And I just thought to myself, okay, that's fair. I definitely know the struggle, but also I might have a few items of clothing that I'm not wearing anymore and she could definitely have. So I told her this and she was ecstatic. And then fast forward and I eventually brought in multiple pieces, including some shirts, some dresses, and some cardigans. She took a few tops, but then sneered at the dresses. I am not wearing those. The straps are too thin and they're gonna show my bra. So I responded back and I said, oh, that's no sweat. I'm the same way. To hide them, I wear shrugs and cardigans over them. It keeps me looking professional and they're pretty cheap online if you don't like the ones I brought. I could even show you if you want. I mean, they're like maybe $10 a pop. She then says to me, I don't have that kind of money. Don't you have matching ones you can give me instead? Well, I thought about it and I said, well, no, I'm using the ones I have. The ones I brought are the ones I I don't need. She then looked at me and said, I'm sure you have another one you're not using. I've seen you wear a different white one. How about that one? You have 2 of those. So I responded by saying, well, they're different shades and they go with different dresses. I use both of them, so I'm sorry. But the one you're talking about was like $12. I mean, I can send you the link. Before I could even continue, she cuts me off and says, I already told you I'm broke. Can't you just give it to me? But I said to her, no, I'm sorry. She looked at me and said, okay, fine. Then take these back. I don't want them. And then she tosses the dresses haphazardly back in the bag. Meanwhile, she admits to ordering out for most of her meals, including a pretty expensive chain known for like their $12 desserts, which apparently is something she gets on a regular basis. Like, man, I don't know. Maybe you could buy your own sweater if you don't spend $30 on spaghetti and then $12 on cake every single week. Or at least be polite and grateful about when someone just hands you about $200 worth of free clothing that you could absolutely rock every day to work if you would spend like $10 on a sweater. I try to view it from her perspective, rationalize it through the lens of her different ability, but I don't think there's an excuse for being so entitled about the free clothing. But whatever, hopefully she enjoys the tops, because at least they're not going to be going to like Goodwill or anything like that for $50, and they will at least go to somebody who might end up wearing them. Okay, in my opinion, the whole saying of like, oh, beggars can't be choosers could not be more real here. Like, the original poster is throwing this lady a bone and she's trying to be like, oh, I'm sorry, this isn't exactly what I wanted. Like, dude, what are you doing? I'm giving you like $200 worth of clothing and you're really gonna be that picky? Like, if I was in need of some extra clothing and I was like, oh crap, this is in my brand and in my size, like for me personally, I'll be like, oh, thank you so much. This is so nice of you. I appreciate it so much, and all this other stuff. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, I can't believe you didn't give me the exact thing that I wanted. You know that one item that you have at home that I've seen you wear a couple of times? You need to give me that one instead of this crap. But it's like, lady, do you not realize she's giving you this all for free? Like, what are you doing? So yeah, this intern is super annoying and I can see exactly why they haven't been hired on. My wife's entitled homeless friend literally is refusing to move out of our house, as what was supposed to be a short stay of her living with us soon turned into about 5 months of her not moving out. And now I feel like I'm at the edge of my sanity and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I live with my wife somewhere in France. We're both close to our early 30s, and earlier this year, one of her close friends, who's a 30-year-old female, got dumped by her boyfriend and he kicked her out. She couldn't go to her mom because she lives with her grandma, and she said it was too stressful. But it could have been an option, but unfortunately, they live like 6 hours away by car from us. But because my wife is very kind, she invited her to stay with us during our wedding prep. She then slept in our room for 3 weeks and the night of our wedding. And this really was supposed to be temporary, just until she figured things out. But guess what? It's now been like 5 months. She never said when she planned to leave, and I kept asking her to please look for a job. But every time it looked like she was gonna start, she went on vacation instead. We helped update her resume, and even sent her profile to a few companies. And trust me, if we had not done it for her, she would have lost her benefits completely. She only sent 1 resume on her own in like the last 10 months period. Now currently, she lives in our living room, which by the way is half of our flat. She keeps the shutters closed all day until she wakes up, which sometimes can be as late as 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so we literally have no natural light in our flat. My wife and I both work from home, and we do meetings from the kitchen on a stool because we do not want to wake her up. She almost never does dishes or cleans, and when she does, it's always half done. I told her many times I don't feel comfortable entering the living room when she sleeps, but nothing ever changes. A few months ago, I finally asked, okay, when are you leaving? And she looked at me confused and said, leaving what? And I said, the apartment. When are you leaving this apartment? She then said initially she was planning for September, even though I never heard a word about this, but now it's maybe October. And I gotta be honest, I was so relieved when I heard that, because that talk absolutely was really hard for me to do. But then in mid-September, she left for a few weeks without telling us, leaving all of her stuff behind. She texted the morning that she was coming back that day, and I then asked her, okay, but then you're gonna leave right after that, right? But she said to me, what do you mean leave? And I reminded her of our talk. She then said that she didn't remember that talk, and then tried to claim that she had said that if she doesn't find a job, then she'll see what she can do during October, even though that conversation absolutely never happened. Well, we talked again recently, and I told her she uses ambiguity to her advantage, and that her silence is driving me crazy. When I said this, she cried a lot, but I still talked. I mean, I really tried to emphasize our feelings over hers during the conversation. I then made her acknowledge and tell me what she understood of the conversation, and I really felt like she understood exactly where we stand. Well, fast forward to today, and she still didn't give me a date. She just said to me, I think I'll leave next week and take my stuff in November. But this time I said, no, give me a date. And then after that, you're not living here. She then said to me, well, I don't know, which really pissed me off. And I told her that after the 1st of November, she won't be living here anymore. Now, she said okay, May, but later told my wife that she was leaving around November. And now I feel trapped in my own home and I'm tired of this situation. I know we could have been more firm with her by establishing rules when she moved in, but seriously, am I the jerk right now for kicking this homeless friend out of my house? Because at this point, I feel taken advantage of and I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, no, you're not the jerk, but yeah, you're absolutely right. You should have established rules way in the beginning, dude, because this lady is no longer like a friend in my opinion. Like, no friend would actually do this, but instead a squatter or some kind of like freeloader absolutely would. She doesn't pay rent, she doesn't buy groceries, she doesn't do the dishes, she's barely even looking for a job. So the fact that she's trying to be like, oh, I don't know, I'll leave at some point, basically just waffling about and kicking the can down the road, like that is unacceptable and that absolutely would not stand for me. So no, you're not the jerk. This is the only sane option left, because this lady sounds a little bit crazy and I would definitely want her out of my house sooner than later. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Would I be the jerk if I report a homeless person in my off-campus accommodations? As I'm pretty convinced that they're the reason the smoke alarms keep going off, as they are constantly smoking all the time. Because right now I'm kind of worried that I might get in trouble if I say anything, and at this point I simply don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 19-year-old female and I live in an off-campus accommodation, and for approximately the past 2 weeks, I have been smelling cigarette smoke through my window on the first floor. In fact, I can smell it as I'm typing this post right now. Today, there's been a series of fire alarms in the last half hour, and when I came up to my room after the third alarm, where I was waiting in the cold with 2 of my flatmates by the way, I noticed a blanket and an umbrella in the staircase near the building's laundry room. I've previously attempted to get down through this staircase, but I've always been stopped due to this combination lock on it. Well, after a few seconds, I see the blanket moving, and then a tall guy stretching, lighting his cigarette. And yes, just so you know, smoking on the property is forbidden, and is most likely the reason for the constant fire alarms. I've texted the flat groundskeeper and most haven't responded, but the one that has said that she feels unsafe and that I should lock my window before going to bed. Now, I know the logical thing would be to tell the security. I mean, these fire alarms have been constant for the past week, and the smell of cigarettes is bad for my asthma as well. But the snitch culture is huge where I am, and I really just don't want to be that person, because the guy's not done anything to me, except for the smell and the fire alarms. And I really would feel guilty if he got outed and had to sleep literally on the streets. He may also get arrested for trespassing, which could cause him to lose his place at the university. You know, if he goes there, which he might do, because he seems to be about my age. This is probably very juvenile, but so far I've played the song by the title Home, as it mentions home and cigarettes, just so that the guy clues in that someone knows he's there, and to stop smoking at least. I'm genuinely afraid that if he sees my face and finds out that I'm thinking of snitching on him, he might do something to me. Yelling down to him isn't an option. I mean, it would be very easy to figure out my exact room and location. So would I be the jerk if I reported him to security, despite knowing what this could do to him? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Dude, there is no excuse for this behavior. I'm sorry, but absolutely not. This guy literally is sitting there smoking cigarettes and causing all the fire alarms to go off. Like, I don't know about you, but Occam's razor says, oh yeah, maybe it's the guy smoking. You know, the homeless guy sleeping on the steps, smoking a cigarette anytime he wakes up. Like, yeah, that guy's gotta go. There are rules for a reason. This guy can't just be sleeping on the corner and smoking cigarettes in an off-campus building that literally doesn't allow that. That's stupid and selfish and absolutely unacceptable. So no, you're not the jerk for calling security. This guy's breaking the rules and causing problems for probably up to like 100 people. So you're telling me you would rather have this one guy sit there and keep doing what he's doing instead of just saying something and getting this guy out of there? Like, this isn't you being a snitch. It's not like you're keeping a really cool secret. Like, there's a homeless guy smoking cigarettes that's causing the alarm to go off. This is a public disturbance and he shouldn't be there. And that's not saying that, yeah, his situation sucks, but you have nothing to do with that. So no, you are not the jerk. You can easily make a private phone call about this and get this taken care of immediately. And trust me, this guy will never know it was you and you can move on with your life. Am I the jerk for warning people ahead of time that my sister is a compulsive liar? Because after my sister found out, she's now saying that I'm a jerk and that now everyone's gonna think she's a liar despite the fact that she really is one. Here's what's going on. So my sister just found out that I warned people that I know before they meet her that she is a compulsive liar. I love my sister a lot, but she has a serious issue with lying about everything all the time. Even dumb little things that don't make sense half the time. I can always tell when she is lying, but other people can't, and I don't want my friends or other people that I know to believe her when she lies about things that are big deals though. For reference, my sister is 26 years old. So whenever she says something that I know is a lie around my friends, they look at me and I shake my head no, and this is a system that I've set up. I don't call her out or embarrass her in front of other people, and they never say anything either, but instead they just nod and we move on. My sister isn't a bad person, and we both had very hard childhoods and went through a lot of trauma, so I give her grace and I ask that you do as well. I do know that a lot of her issues with lying comes from wanting attention, and the little lies don't really bother me and I ignore them, but the big ones are usually very problematic. Well, yesterday she met a coworker of mine who I had warned ahead of time that she lies a lot. She said something that was outrageous and my coworker looked at me and I just shook my head no and we moved on. Well, my sister saw it this time, and on the way back to my house asked me why sometimes I shake my head no when she talks. And it's here that I explain why, exactly as I did written above. I wasn't mean or cold about it, and my sister knows that I have an issue with her lying all the time already. Well, she thinks I'm a jerk now because now everyone's gonna think that she's a liar. So am I at fault for doing this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, although I can see why someone might think you're in the wrong, because seriously, your sister is lying about all kinds of stuff apparently, and I'm kind of getting the vibe that she's lying about everything, and that would probably include the original poster, which would then prompt them to be like, hey, my sister is full of crap, don't believe anything she says. Which, I mean, I would probably do the same thing if I had a family member who did that. Like, that would be obnoxious to try and manage. Always having people have different perceptions of you or your life, or even some false version of her life that she's trying to like portray to the outside public. Like, that sounds obnoxious, and I would absolutely warn people ahead of time. But I will say, her being 26 years old and still doing stuff like this, like, I can understand people having bad childhoods, but dude, come on. At some point, it's no longer an excuse to be like, well, I had a hard childhood, that's why I'm a compulsive liar as an adult. Like, no, take charge of your life, man. Go to therapy. Get some help or something. Like, this is not okay. You can't live your life like this and expect people to be happy about it. And I'm not trying to trivialize this. Like, I really do feel for her. Obviously, there has been some kind of problems in her life where she feels a need to make up her life and the details of it. But there's obviously something going on where it's like, okay, you probably need to talk to somebody, because it is not normal to lie about these big, grandiose things about your life. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and honestly, I think this might be a good wake-up call for your sister, for her to realize that, yeah, I have to tell people ahead of time that you lie all the time, because that's exactly what you do. And hopefully this can prompt some kind of change, because what you're describing, in my opinion, is very sad. Today, I need to confess that I accidentally kissed my best friend's girlfriend at a masquerade party, putting me in a situation that I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to put a long story short, our friend group was having a masquerade party. I decided to go last minute, so I had no idea what anyone was wearing except for my other friend, but honestly, that doesn't really matter. I get there incredibly late and there was a lot of people there. I'm talking up a lot of people, and I haven't really ran into any of my friends yet, but I didn't really care. I'm not ashamed to say it, but I was looking to hook up. I then found one girl all glammed up with makeup, a mask, a cool dress, and gloves, basically the works. And after a couple of drinks in, I didn't realize at the time that this was my friend. We were both yelling over the music, so I didn't quite recognize her voice. But it's like, whatever, I just didn't know, and she didn't know either. Well, very late into the party, after a lot of drinks, I'm thinking I'm the best man in the world, so I go for it and I kiss her. She then pushes me away, screaming that she's married, even though she's not married, and then she runs away. It wasn't until like a week later that we were gaming together on call, and we were talking about the party itself. She then sent me some pictures of the group, and I asked her who the person in red was, and she said it was her. And when she said this, I nearly died. That's when she said some green guy kissed her and she ran away. It's at this point I half-heartedly confessed that I was the green guy, and when I said this, she was pissed at me for weeks, but thankfully she never really told her boyfriend that it was me. And while she did confess that some guy kissed her, she never name-dropped me. And I know it wasn't on purpose that I kissed her, but I still feel horribly, like I betrayed him in some twisted way. And what's even worse is that confessing it now would be a nightmare, because it happened so long ago, and she never gave up my identity. Honestly, I've just been holding this in for so long that it's not even this horrible thing if you really think about it. But I still feel horrible, and I just don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, I want to say that, dude, you are not the only person in the world to make some kind of dumb decision like this. For starters, you need to give yourself some grace. You didn't know it was her, and you absolutely regret it later, which means that you're not a bad person. You just made a mistake, and that's it. But I swear to you, if you ever bring this up to this guy, he absolutely will rip you a new one. This is one of those things that goes down to your grave, dude. Just don't mention it. Chalk it up as life experience that you need to keep a lid on it, because no one's ever going to react positively towards it. Like, your friends are not going to react positively and be like, like, oh, I understand, that's okay. Instead, they're most likely going to be super hostile towards you and probably treat you like garbage. And I don't know about you, but I'm not really in the business of dragging myself through the streets like I'm in Game of Thrones. But you do not need to have someone standing behind you screaming shame and ringing a bell so everyone can look. So yeah, dude, I totally understand that you feel bad, but just don't tell anyone about it. It's an innocent mistake that you're never going to do again. And I really believe that it's only going to cause problems if you bring it up in the future. Am I the jerk for being pissed off at my friend after they named their newborn child after my deceased child that I lost at 5 months being pregnant? Because right now I am very pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, back in 2024, my husband and I were expecting our first baby, but after being pregnant for 5 months, I had to have an emergency C-section because my baby was not surviving. And you know what? I was devastated and depressed after this. I'm still grieving my loss and I have a hard time being around babies and even just attending baby showers. Well, after being 2 months postpartum, my husband's cousin's girlfriend asked me if we could talk because she went through a miscarriage at 6 weeks and she wanted someone to talk to about her grief. Now, I was not in any shape or form to discuss the topic of pregnancy, and I did tell her I am just not the right person to be asking because I'm not in the best shape to talk about it. She then begged me because she needed mental help, so I gave in and I talked to her. But in my head, I'm angry because she was practically comparing how we both had similar experiences. She was also well aware of what we named our daughter too, by the way. We had chosen the name after myself and my husband. It was a combination of our own names. I mean, it was perfect. Her and I made Day of the Dead altars for our babies last year. We bonded, we got closer eventually, and then in January of 2025, she tells me that she's pregnant and can't wait. And mind you, I'm still grieving, but you know what? I'm happy for her. Later on, she finds out that she's having a baby girl. And then this August in 2025, she's told that she's having medical complications and will have to deliver sooner than expected. Her sister-in-law and I are planning a surprise brunch for her and also plan to set up a baby corner and clean her house. I then go over one day to take her fresh juice and this beautiful arrangement of flowers that I had ordered for her. She then goes into labor 2 days after I saw her, and eventually I go to the hospital, but I don't go into the room because seriously, I'm still grieving, but I want her to know that I'm there as well. 2 weeks pass by and my husband and I go to the friend's house to see the new baby. We take her homemade food and I had ordered a bunch of things for her and her baby on Amazon that were going to be coming afterwards because she couldn't have a baby shower. So with all that in mind, we're sitting there and we're talking, and I finally ask her, what did you name your baby? She then says that she's gonna name her child after her great-grandma's names. And it's here that she laughs and her baby daddy also laughs as well, as he keeps saying, yeah, that's gonna be her name. Well, 3 weeks later, I'm doing her mother-in-law's hair, and I ask her about the baby, and I said to the mother-in-law that I think it's great that she's naming her kid after like family members. Well, she just laughed and said, no, they're not naming her that, which is right when my mother-in-law told me that they're using the name that my baby was gonna be named after. When I heard this, I freaked out. I said, that is the name of my baby. And when I heard this, as you can probably imagine, I was very pissed off. I went to her house the next day and I asked her why she chose that name. And she says to me, oh, I forgot. And it's like, what? I had the name tattooed on my arm. I also have that name in my Instagram bio. We bonded last year. She then said to me, oh, well, I don't know who told you the name. I told only 5 people and it was supposed to be a secret. You were not supposed to know. And I was just like, oh, well, thank you so much for sparing my emotions, but screw you. Because seriously, there's no way she would have ever forgotten it. Because if she had, she wouldn't have tried so hard to keep it a secret from me. So am I the jerk for being angry at her for using my kid's name? Because I think I'm right for being pissed off, but I just don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, someone said this best in the comment section, but I completely agree when they say that you need to exorcise this woman from your life like the soul-sucking demon that she is. Like, oh my gosh, this lady is so toxic. Like, she really took your baby's name and then lied about it and tried to be like, oh, it's something else, don't worry about it. You know, after claiming ignorance and being like, well, I forgot that's the name of your kid. Because seriously, let's be honest for a second. She absolutely knew about it, and the only reason she was hiding it was because she knew the original poster would be rightfully pissed off. So no, you're not the jerk here. I would be furious and I would never let this go. I would probably scream it from the rooftops if I had the chance to, because what this lady's doing is super toxic and completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for not canceling my plans to attend my sister's wedding? As this wedding literally falls in place with a surgery I've been waiting to have for a long time. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've heard varying opinions from people in my real life, so I'm now posting it here to try and get a second opinion. For a bit of context, I have 3 siblings and we're all in our 20s. Our oldest sister, who I will call Jane, is 29 years old and recently announced her engagement to a man we all knew, but no one really knew that she was dating. And the only place that she announced this was on Facebook. She claimed that she thought that that none of us would see it, and actually had asked our father to let us know of the engagement. Her and our mother and father live in the small town that we all grew up in, which is less than 5 minutes away from each other, and the rest of us are in the East and West Coast respectfully. Now, for some reason, I ended up logging into a Facebook account on a night that I just simply couldn't sleep after getting back from a trip, and it's here that I saw the status update announcing their engagement between Jane and her fiance, who I will call Aaron for the sake of the story. I then called Jane the next day to congratulate her, and I let her know that I was slightly confused but still happy for her nonetheless. Well, Jane blew up at me after I expressed my confusion, which I did in a peaceful manner by the way, and ever since then we haven't really spoken to each other. Now, I have spoken to our father multiple times ever since then, and I have been informed that this is just how she behaves, and that I need to just suck it up and show up, but I really just don't care anymore, and neither do my other two siblings. The lack of communication has been really loud, and I don't care to unravel the layers of disrespect that have been happening here. The icing on the cake of this entire thing is that I have an important surgery planned for like the week before that will take weeks of recovery, and this is something that's been scheduled since the beginning of the year. But you know what? I'm not willing to reschedule my plans for a last-minute chaotic wedding of two people that can't even be bothered to communicate properly with anybody. I've let my family know that I'll do my best to make it, but the plans I've made come first, especially after all the planning that it took to take off that much time from work. So am I the jerk for not canceling my plans to make sure that I can show up to this stupid wedding? Because right now I really just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, this is so annoying. And not from the original poster, like, don't get me wrong. They're being completely rational and they're just trying to figure out what's going on. Like, the way your sister's acting is just so dumb. Seriously, first off, if you're gonna be engaged to somebody, the least you can do is at least let family members know that, hey, we're dating, we've been dating for a while, this is my boyfriend, or whatever. Like, even at a bare minimum, you would expect that to be some kind of, like, conversation, right? Wouldn't you want this guy to meet the family and be like, hey, we're a thing, this is a thing that's going on right now? Like, I don't know, that just seems super foreign to me to not have that kind of conversation and not involve them in the family in some capacity. So that's the first red flag in my opinion, but also the fact that she's freaking out about you being like, hey, congratulations, I'm so happy that you guys are engaged, this is great. Like, who would get mad at that? Like, if I saw my sibling was suddenly engaged on Facebook, I would be like, first off, congratulations, but also, what's going on right now? I didn't know you were dating, like, what's happening? Like, you can't just post something on Facebook and be upset when you get attention for it. Like, isn't that why you posted it on Facebook itself? You're looking for attention and you don't like the attention you're getting? Like, holy crap, Jane is so backwards in my opinion. So with all that in mind and all this like background, personally, I do not think you would be the jerk if you didn't cancel your plans, especially for a surgery. Like, I don't know what it's like for other people who have had like procedures done or like some kind of surgery, but dude, those dates are like set in stone. It is not easy to reschedule that, and it really sounds like you're going to be out of commission for several weeks, which is not something that's going to be easy to recover from. So on that end, I don't think you would be the jerk at all for being like, hey, I can't make it this time. Like, physically, you're not going to be able to be there, and it's like, sorry, I can't do it. So no, if I was in your shoes, I would definitely not cancel a thing. I would tell my sister, hey, I love you, I'll send a present, but I can't be there because I'm literally having surgery, which in my opinion, especially considering the way she was acting, takes a much higher precedent over this stupid wedding. A psycho teacher says that he would rather me pass away in his classroom than leave in the middle of class just to check my type 1 diabetes, even going as far as refusing to allow me to leave the classroom when I quite literally felt I was about to pass out, putting me in a situation that was incredibly dangerous and very irresponsible on his part. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm an 18-year-old male and I have type 1 diabetes. I also have an alarm that goes off every 2 hours to remind me to check my blood sugar. And usually I go to the bathroom with my little lunch bag that has everything I need, my blood testing things, the insulin syringe, etc. All of my teachers are aware of my condition and they understand that it's something that I need to do, and they don't really care about it unless it happens during a test, which is completely fair. For reference, my alarm is the sound of a screaming monkey, and yeah, it's annoying, but I can't ignore it this way. My phone is in the lunch bag with all of my other things, so it takes me a bit to turn it off. And I just want to say to all my classmates, I am truly sorry for the noise. Well, a few days ago, we had a substitute teacher in math. I didn't know him and immediately just thought, oh well, I guess I'll have to do some explaining. I told him about my diabetes, my alarm, and that I need to leave when it goes off to check my blood sugar. He told me that I should get a quieter solution next time because the regular math teacher had left, who by the way was super awesome and really chill about all of this. I then explained that this was the only solution I have. Healthcare in the United States sucks, and I can't really afford the fancy continuous glucose monitor or the pump. But his response to all of this was one of the most shocking things I've ever heard in my life, because he looked at me and said, then I guess you'll just have to die quietly. And it's like, dude, who says that to someone who literally just told you that if a monkey starts screaming and they don't go check, then they could actually be in danger? Also, you try living in New York City with 3 kids, one of them being diabetic by the way, on a single nurse's salary. Anyways, later during the class, my alarm went off, and this guy actually told me to stay put and not disturb his class. But I said to him, I'm feeling low on blood sugar, I need to go check it. I was really feeling low and my vision was starting to blur. I felt like I was about to pass out. One of my classmates then yelled, "Let him leave, man, he's in danger." And after that, I just got up and I left. Well, sure enough, when I checked, my blood sugar was low. I then went to the nurse's office and I took my glucose gel. Now, the nurse knows me too well, by the way, and doesn't have a problem with me stopping by when I'm low. After waiting a bit and feeling just a little bit better, I then went back to class. But when I did, that's when the substitute told me to go wait for him at the principal's office. When we got there with the principal, he started yelling at me, saying that I should obey him because he's the authority figure in class, and that I was undermining his authority in front of everybody. Well, when he said that, I told him to wait a minute, I called my mom, I put her on speakerphone, and I asked her to explain what the dangers are if I can't treat myself for low blood sugar. Well, she explained it, and the teacher left looking incredibly pissed off. Fast forward to the next day, and I actually got an apology letter from him after class, and he told me he was sorry for the incident and that he had done his research. So yeah, lesson learned. Don't mess with me because I will absolutely put you in your place. Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine a substitute actually walking up and being like, "Oh, I guess you're just gonna have to die quietly." Like, they would rather have one of their students die in the back row than actually have them check their blood sugar. Like, holy crap, if that's really how you feel about teenagers, then you need to get into a different job, dude. I don't care how hard your life is, that's crazy to say. And yeah, the original poster and their mom and pretty much everybody else on planet Earth is 100% right about this. Type 1 diabetes is not something you want to mess around with. That's absolutely something you need to monitor and make sure you're not like on the verge of dying. Like, that's so scary. I don't deal with that. I don't have that personally, but I can only imagine how frustrating that would be. Like, truly, that is so scary in my opinion. Especially when you think about it as a teenager dealing with an adult. Like, this substitute teacher would rather you die on the back row than actually like disrupt his class. And I'm kind of convinced that the one thing he really didn't like is the monkey screaming noises. Like, that's probably what really pissed him off, because from the sounds of it, he seems like an easy target for students to mess with as a substitute teacher. Like, this guy's already miserable as it is, and now he's trying to come at you and be like, "Oh, you absolutely can die in the back row." Like, that's crazy. I can't imagine treating someone like that. So good for you for shutting this guy down. Like, good lord, he absolutely deserved it, because his attitude was so atrocious that I just can't think of ever justifying that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for getting married to my husband simply because he had money and I knew I would be secure if I got married to him? Because right now it looks like all of this is falling apart and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 28-year-old female and I've been married to my husband, who's 51, for about 3 years. Before we met, my life was chaos, living paycheck to paycheck, struggling with my student loans, and constantly being anxious about the future. But then I met him at a charity event through work, and I found that he was charming, successful, confident, and clearly used to getting what he wanted. We started dating quickly, and he spoiled me with expensive dinners and trips, as well as gifts, and even paid off my student debt just because he could. But here's the thing, I knew exactly what it looked like. A young woman with an older, rich man. But at the time, I told myself I did love him, or at least that I could grow to. When he proposed, I said yes, and my friends were divided, with half of them saying that I was being smart, and the other half saying that I was selling out. But honestly, I was tired of struggling. I wanted security, stability, peace, and he could offer all of that. But now, a few years in, I can actually admit that I don't really love him. Not the way you're supposed to love your spouse, at least. I respect him, I care about him, and I appreciate what he's done for me, but I don't feel anything deep anymore. Recently, during an argument, he accused me of using him. And when he said this, I got defensive and I snapped. I said to him, well, at least I was honest about what I wanted. You wanted a pretty wife to show off, and I wanted stability. We both got exactly what we wanted. When I said this, he looked genuinely hurt and hasn't spoken to me much ever since then. Well, ever since this incident, my friends are split. Some of them say it was cruel but truthful, while others think that I'm heartless for saying it out loud. Now, here's the thing. I'm not cheating, I'm not lying, and I'm definitely not trying to hurt him. But I have simply just stopped pretending. We both knew what this marriage was when it started, but now that I've said it out loud, I can't tell if I crossed a moral line. So am I the jerk for marrying someone for money and admitting that I really don't love my husband? Because right now, I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna share my opinion here, but yeah, I do think you are the jerk. I totally understand that you wanted stability and you wanted success and you wanted to be like cared for and all that stuff. But if you really want that without any of the love that comes along with it, or any kind of like caring that you might expect from your husband or vice versa, then you really should have gone about this in a different way. Like, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate here. Like, if you really didn't like him, but you did still want to be like spoiled and have expensive dinners and have more things paid off for in your life, which by the way, I think is a terrible reason to get married to someone. That's just my take. I think marriage should be about love between the two people getting married, but that's neither here nor there. But with the path you took, the least you could do is at least play ball and try to play nice. Like, sure, you don't love him, but at least you care about him and you're trying to be nice and kind and be a good partner to him. And it sounds like you completely failed because this guy's like, wait a second, you're just using me. And on top of that, I kind of don't think this guy knew what he was getting into. Like, it really seems like he thought you were the love of his life, but now he slowly discovered and confirmed through your comments previously that no, you really did only marry him for money. And I don't know about anyone else, but I think that's horrifying and that is such a terrible reason to get married. Again, that's just my opinion. Maybe you have a different one. Please leave a comment. I would love to hear what you have to say. So yes, I do think you're the jerk here. Like, I could easily see this guy going and being like, okay, I'm just gonna get a divorce or something like that. Which, don't get me wrong, I really hope that doesn't happen. Like, I hope you guys are able to like figure things out and find some kind of like mutual ground to stand on. But honestly, it just seems like you got into this for the wrong reasons, and that is not fair for your husband or for you, because eventually that bubble's gonna pop, and it kind of looks like it already has. Am I the jerk for asking my girlfriend to stop using my expensive camera equipment anytime she tries to make TikTok videos for her channel? Because after I found out she's not taking care of them, and she literally is just leaving it around wherever she wants, I've decided to put my foot down and take back my $4,000 worth of equipment. And at this point, I don't know if I made a mistake, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I'm a 30-year-old male, and I'm really into photography. It's been a hobby for about 10 years now, and I've invested in some good gear. A couple of cameras, some lenses, some lighting setups, etc. It is not cheap, and I'm very particular about how I handle my equipment. Now, my girlfriend recently started a lifestyle TikTok channel and asked if she could use my camera setup for her videos. And you know what? At first I said sure, as long as she was careful with my stuff. But then I started noticing smudges on the lenses, my tripod legs getting bent, and even one of my SD cards going missing. She also left my camera outside overnight once because she got distracted editing. I then asked her to start using her phone or maybe even buy a beginner camera. And when I said this, she got upset with me, saying that I was gatekeeping creativity and that as her boyfriend, I should want to support her passion. But I said that I do, just not at the expense of my $4,000 worth of equipment. She's now calling me selfish and saying that I care more about objects than her dreams. And her friends are even backing her up too, saying that I should just chill since I don't even do photography professionally. I feel bad, but I also just don't want my stuff ruined. So am I the jerk here? Because I really don't know what to do. Holy crap, your girlfriend is playing around with $4,000 worth of equipment and she wants to act like you're gatekeeping creativity when she's not taking care of it? Like, dude, are you kidding me right now? It starts with tripod legs getting bent and then it leads to the camera shattering as she drops it. Like, I'm sorry, she clearly can't be trusted with equipment this expensive and really should just get a simple point and shoot camera that she can work with. Or just use her phone like everybody else. Like, what's going on? So no, you're not the jerk. Your girlfriend's being very selfish and very irresponsible. And if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. Am I the jerk for not lending my boyfriend nearly $2,000 just so he can pay his taxes off by next week? Because right now he's saying that I'm the one that's being selfish by not paying up, despite the fact that I've been telling him all year that he needs to save up and pay for his stuff. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend has been asking me to let him borrow around $1,650 for the taxes that he's been needing to pay. And mind you, this is for the October 15th extended deadline. He was supposed to pay this back in March, but couldn't afford it, so he asked for an IRS extension. I've been reminding him that he needs to save money so that he can pay it off, but all he likes to do is spend. And on top of that, he is barely making the minimum wage at his job. I have let him borrow money for his rent before 4 months ago, and I have yet to see that money. And I've even been promised that he would pay it back, but he simply hasn't. Anytime we go out, I also pay a lot of the times because he lives paycheck to paycheck. I am fortunate to have a well-paying job and a fair amount in savings in my account, but it's not the point. He just never listens when it's time for him to use his money wisely. I am very generous when it comes to money, but when he asked me again today, I told him straight up, no, I'm not gonna do it. But now he's saying that I'm a mean person and that I don't care about him, and how he will end up in jail if he doesn't pay up when I've been the one helping him this entire time. I feel bad because I'm not sure what consequences he will receive, and ever since this morning, he's been acting very dry towards me. So am I the jerk for not letting him borrow money even though I have it? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh man, I would definitely never pay that kind of money, especially if you've been reminding him all year to do it. Like for starters, your boyfriend doesn't sound very responsible, and in my opinion, I can see this kind of falling apart. Like hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully your relationship lasts and it's really happy and like long lasting. But if this guy's seriously trying to blame you for not paying his taxes, like that's a huge red flag that I would simply never ignore. Would I be overreacting if I said I was going to quit my new job after my job has still not paid me for over 80 hours of work time? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know if I'm making a mistake. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I started my new job at the United States Postal Service last month, and I've got to say it's been challenging just to say the least. The routes tend to be long and confusing, and the vehicles we're given are incredibly old. Compounding all of this, however, is the fact that I've been badly underpaid for my first 2 pay periods. Orientation and academy, etc. was promised to be paid for, but my first pay stub yielded a net pay of like $230, despite having 80 hours in that 2-week pay period. 62 of those hours were labeled as non-scheduled CrossFit, which is regarded as unpaid. And on the second pay period, another 19 hours had the same issue. I've called human resources and they passed the buck all the way to my supervisor. I explained the issue to her, and she seemed shocked at the amount of hours I was owed. She then asked me to email my 2 pay stubs to her and said that she'd be in touch with her boss. And it's now been several days and I have absolutely no updates. Well, today at work was completely exhausting. I'm expected to learn this labyrinth of a route over the next week, and I only managed to finish because my coworker and instructor came by to relieve me of half of my remaining mail, as well as all of my remaining packages. Yet I feel like I'm doing a lot for a workplace that seems to be dragging its feet to actually pay me. If I don't have any tangible updates tomorrow, which is when we deliver Amazon packages, I'm probably going to deliver an ultimatum. Either pay me what I'm owed or I'm going to stop coming in. So seriously, am I overreacting? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I think it would be an overreaction to be like, either give me money or I'm not going to work here. Because for me, that seems like way too much of like a knee-jerk reaction that I just don't think is wise. Like in my opinion, I think it would be better to follow up with your manager and be like, hey, did you speak to human resources and let them know that I'm owed a lot of hours? Or do I need to escalate this further? Like make sure you have something like that in writing that you can send to these people, because then you have a paper trail and you have evidence if you ever decide to like escalate this in a way that would pretty much get them in trouble. So in my opinion, I think it would be an overreaction to be like, oh, I'm gonna quit if I don't get money right now. Like that's not gonna be a good look. They're probably never gonna want to work with you if you do act that way. And I just think long term for this job, it would not be beneficial to make an ultimatum and then freak out on them. A crazy guy tried to break up my marriage by saying that my husband is actually the problem in my life. But after my husband and I pretty much confirmed that this guy's a weirdo with a shady past, I have finally blocked him on just about everything, hoping that he never takes a step into my life ever again. Here's what's going on. Okay, to preface this, I don't reply to this guy and I don't really have any contact with him. I've called the cops, I've filed reports, I've notified the court, and I've changed my number. I do not want to hear from this guy at all. I've been through so much verbal mistreatment in the last couple of years that I genuinely just want a place to write it all down and process and organize what in the world even is wrong with that person, but I want to do it away from them and in peace. Now, first of all, to start things out, guess who immediately clicked that this guy was bad news? It was my husband. Instantly. He's like, I think that guy is lying. I think he isn't just kidding, and I think he does want to harm you, and I really think you need to steer clear of him, which you know what was solid advice. My husband is a very down-to-earth and protective person, and I really trust his intuition. If he says that's a bad dude, then that's just a bad dude. He's not some irrational person who's going to say something that's not true. He's just better than that, and he wouldn't make that up. Well, I come to find out that this guy is involved in some very shady, bad stuff. He has a penchant for criminal activity and is just all around a very irrational and chaotic guy who I just don't like dealing with, and I never will. So I block him and he eventually gets banned. But then he comes back a bunch through various means, whether it's online or offline, and we're honestly so horrified. And now he's tried to tell lies about, oh, that wasn't him, but I know it's not true. And it was because he was so awkward when he answered the questions wrong. Like if somebody goes, okay, well, where were you on August 1st? This idiot would be like, well, this is where I was on January 29th, as if that's somehow supposed to answer the question. It's just really awkward, and this guy's just really dumb. This dude also made entire fake posts about pretending that he was dating me. And just to make a long story short, he was saying some really creepy stuff online. He really seems to think that the problem is not himself and his grandiose failure to accept reality, and that there are women who just can't be charmed into giving an obviously mean and ugly-spirited man any kind of positive attention, and he's also basically convinced himself through immense amounts of self-deprecation and what I would assume a vast amount of substances to melt his brain that somehow my husband is the problem. Now, I can't believe anybody is legally allowed to be called a human and be that stupid, because all this idiot does is complain about women ignoring obvious red flags because he thinks they like bad boys. But then when my husband pointed out that this is a red flag in and of itself, as well as warning me not to be this guy's friend ever, stating very clearly that there are just bad vibes about this guy, all of a sudden it shifts into him being like, oh wow, why won't a woman give someone who's obviously horrible and misogynistic like me a chance? And I'm not talking about some guy's like sketchy history. I'm talking about the kind of morally bankrupt Neanderthal who literally wants to punch a woman just for being a woman, because he's on some whole social justice victim mentality that he himself is really the victim in life. Now, obviously, I will not be leaving my husband. I love my husband, and despite this weirdo's ongoing gripes, my husband is actually a good man to us. He's not the performance of a good man, he doesn't do performative activism, and is actually a good man to us, period. And he also doesn't want us to get hurt. My husband is kind, and this weirdo was attempting to get him out of the way with manipulation just to try and hurt our family, which has left me feeling incredibly uneasy, and I'm just seriously so tired of this entire situation. Okay, let this be a lesson to anybody who's listening that, dude, just because someone's posting and like screaming at you online does not mean you ever have to engage with them. Like, this guy sounds insane. He's trying to be like, oh, your husband's the problem and I'm the answer. He's just one big red flag. But in reality, this guy's just literally projecting. Like, your husband sounds like a decent human being, and he obviously spotted this giant red flag of a human being walking right in front of his family. Like, holy crap, what a weirdo. So hopefully he never steps back in your life. That sounds like a miserable experience, and I don't blame you for this being an upsetting experience, because this guy was obviously trying to tear your family apart, and that is not fair in the slightest. Today, my boyfriend said that I broke his trust after I told my friend about a prank that he did, because right now he's very upset and I don't know how to fix the situation. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm 18 years old and I'm dating this guy who's 20 years old. We've known each other for around 6 months and been dating for about 2. We're in the same college and share a friend group, so we see each other almost every single day. Things were okay until this weird situation happened, and now he's saying that I broke his trust, and I don't know if I actually did something terrible or if he's just blowing this way out of proportion. So here's how it all went down. A while back, he decided to prank one of his close friends, and his prank was pretending that he wasn't serious about me, like saying stuff such as, oh, I only see her as a friend, I'm just playing around, basically making it sound like I was just a joke to him. Later on, he told me about the prank and asked if he could use my name in it, like saying I told him to do it just to see my friend's reaction. Because he said he had already pranked her and made her mad before, so he said that she wouldn't trust him again, so he wanted to use my name to try and get around that. Now, I've got to be honest, I didn't really think too much about it, and I was pretty much okay with it. He then specifically asked me not to tell my friend that he was behind the prank, and I agreed. But the next day, I kind of slipped up. My friend mentioned the prank and I was anxious and I wasn't feeling good, so I just blurted out that it was actually his idea and that he only used my name. And you know what? My friend didn't really care and was completely chill about it. Later, I told him that I told her because I didn't want to hide it, and at first he didn't react much, but a few days later, he texted me saying that he was really hurt that I broke his trust. He said things like, I don't think I can even trust you for a while. If it were any other girl, she would have been down for it. You prove that girls always spread everything. You were the only person I thought I didn't have to think twice about. He then said that if I was any other girl, she would have been blocked already. He also said that he always thought 99% of girls share things, but that I was the one person he thought he could trust from his heart, not from his brain. And now, according to him, I proved him wrong. I mentioned that I suddenly feel this distance between us, and he said, well, that's what happens when trust is lost. And so I asked him what I could do to try and fix it, and he just said that trust just comes back naturally, if at all in the first place. I then asked him if he still wanted to be with me, and he said yes. I also asked for reassurance and kind of a guarantee or something, but he said that he doesn't know himself. Now, here's the thing, I apologize a lot. I told him I didn't mean to hurt him, that I just slipped up, and that I will be careful next time. But he also said things like, well, now you're gonna have to think before you speak, because apparently I proved that I can't keep things between us. I said that I don't want a relationship where we can't be open with each other and not tell things, so he said that he can be that for me, but I can't be that for him for a while. And when he said that, I cried. I over-explained and I told him everyone deserves a second chance, and finally he said the following, fine, I'll give you this one chance, this last one. And I even reassured him about it, that it's just not gonna happen again. But it made me feel like weird or something like that. I get that I shouldn't have told my friends, but like, did I really break his trust that badly? Or is this an overreaction and a red flag because I really don't know what to do? Okay, holy crap, your boyfriend is a giant walking red flag. This guy really is trying to be like, oh, you broke my trust. But you know what's a worse way to break someone's trust? Dragging them into a prank that you don't want to be a part of. Like, what a weirdo. Like, this guy just screams, I hate women, but I don't want to say it out loud. With him saying stuff like, oh, now you gotta think before you speak. If you were any other girl, I would have blocked you. This is just further proof that women tell each other everything. And I gotta be honest, I just can't believe you're still with this guy. He sounds like a bad person and honestly like an even worse boyfriend in my opinion. And I seriously think that you can do way better than this guy. My entitled crazy sister-in-law quite literally moved into our house while we were on our honeymoon, as she claimed that she could move in because we weren't using our guest bedroom at all, putting me in a situation where I honestly did not know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened a few months ago and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. My husband and I had just gotten married and went away for a 1-week honeymoon. Everything was perfect, we had a beach, some good food, and more importantly, we had some peace and quiet. Well, that is until we got back home. As we pulled into the driveway, we noticed my sister-in-law's car was parked there. We thought, okay, maybe she's dropping off a remaining wedding gift that she couldn't get to us on the day of the wedding. I mean, my husband had actually given her our house key so she could drop it off while we were gone. But no, she didn't come to drop anything off. She literally moved in. We opened the door and I swear it felt like walking into a parallel universe. Her shoes were by the door, her clothing was in the guest room closet, makeup was all over the bathroom counter, and half of our food was gone. She even set up her laptop on the dining table like it was her new office. When I asked what she was doing, she looked completely casual and said, oh, I just moved into the guest room temporarily, since, you know, you guys weren't using it anyways. And I'm just like, excuse me? You didn't know we were using it? The guest room is our space. Who even told you that you can move in here? She then just blinked at me like I was the one being dramatic. She then said that she didn't feel safe living with her roommate anymore, so she thought she could stay in our guest bedroom since we don't use it. And it's like, girl, we were gone for a week, not forever. The craziest part about this is that she changed our Wi-Fi password and told the neighbors that she was house sitting for us. Like, I can't even make this up. When my husband told her that she needed to leave, she burst into tears trying to guilt trip us, saying that we were being too harsh on her. We then ended up helping her pack her stuff that same evening, and the first thing the next morning, we changed every single lock of the house. Well, fast forward to my mother-in-law's birthday party last week, and she was acting cold and distant as if we were the ones that wronged her. But I'm honestly still blown away by the audacity of this woman for moving in while we were on our honeymoon. Oh my gosh, I cannot understand how people act like this. Like, thankfully there's no backlash from the family from this, because this is just like the classic case of idiot family member thinking they can do whatever they want. And it's always the in-laws of like a spouse of some kind who quite literally overstep into your life and try to act like they run things. And it's like, dude, take a hike, you can't be here. So yeah, this is probably one of the craziest situations I've ever heard, and I'm so glad that you guys kicked her out and told her to take a hike, because this behavior in my opinion is super weird. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My ex cheated, lied, and got engaged 3 weeks after our breakup, and I'm now trying to understand why someone would do that to me, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. To start things out, I'm a 25-year-old female and I was with my ex-boyfriend for over 4 years. We met during the pandemic and built what I thought was a deep, committed relationship. He told me that I was his soulmate, that he wanted to marry me, and we even talked about our future together. I introduced him to my parents, which was a huge deal culturally for me, and I had a lot of fights with them, trying to fight for my relationship with him and for their acceptance. Throughout our relationship, there was always an issue with his girl best friend. They were emotionally close in a way that made me uncomfortable for years. They texted constantly, shared personal things, and had an intimacy that blurred lines. Whenever I expressed discomfort, he would reassure me that it was platonic, or promise to create boundaries, but he never really did. Last December, 2 months before our 4-year anniversary, something happened that broke my trust completely. He got drunk at his work Christmas party and confessed that he had done something inappropriate. Apparently, he had texted his girl best friend saying, I love you and I want to be with you, while he was drunk. He said that he didn't remember much and that he didn't have feelings for her, and that all of this was a complete mistake. And when I heard this, I was devastated. But he begged for forgiveness and said he would do anything to fix it. He told me he would cut her off completely, and I decided to give him one last chance. From January to April, things seemed to be getting better slowly. He was attentive, saying all the right things, and trying to rebuild what we lost. But in April, while I was back home for 3 weeks for a family emergency, and a week before coming coming back to the United Kingdom, he ended things with me over a phone call. He was vague about the reasons why he wanted to break up, but I accepted it and I agreed to break up with him. Well, the day after he broke up with me, he called asking if we could try couples therapy and see if we could work things out, and I was really confused but kind of hopeful. But then he went completely silent and I heard nothing. 2 months after the breakup, I hear from mutual friends that he had actually cheated on me again in April when I was away for those 3 weeks, but this time with his coworker, who's someone he directly manages at work. This coworker has also in the past hooked up with his brother earlier this year. I found out later through mutual friends that they had slept together while I was gone, and that he started seeing her immediately afterwards. Within 3 weeks of ending things with me, he got engaged to the girl that he cheated on me with. And this was the same man who used to tell me that I was the love of his life, who cried at the thought of losing me, who said he wanted to build a life with me. But after all that, he ended up getting married to her back in August. It's been 6 months now and I've healed a lot, and I don't want anything to do with that man anymore, but I'm curious and I'm trying to make sense of his behavior. How do you go from calling someone your soulmate and begging for another chance to then getting engaged to someone new in just 3 weeks? Was our entire relationship a lie? Was he just emotionally weak, avoidant, guilty? Or is this a sign of something deeper like narcissism or emotional immaturity? Was he a total sociopath? Can someone who has done anything similar please reply and give me any kind of insight? Like, will he ever regret this, and does he think about me at all? I'm not looking for closure from him. I just want to understand what kind of mindset drives someone to betray, lie, and move on so fast, especially after years of shared love and plans for a future. Okay, someone in the comments said exactly what I was thinking, and I just want to repeat that. This guy is shallow and he's a piece of garbage. He would much rather throw your relationship away than actually follow through with it, and would rather cheat on you than actually build a relationship. Like, if you think for a second his new marriage is going to work out, you're insane. Because I really do believe that once a cheater, always a cheater. And if he cheated on you after that long of being together, then you can bet he'll probably do the same thing to this new lady. And that is definitely not fair at all. So I think the biggest takeaway I would have is that, yeah, this guy's a piece of garbage and he's getting exactly what he deserves. Because this lady was a willing accomplice, and I'm not convinced that this relationship is gonna last because these people do not sound like good people in the slightest. Am I overreacting after I found out that my entire family ate my birthday cake without my permission and before I could even have a slice of my own? Because at this point, I'm still incredibly upset and I don't know if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, last night my entire extended family was over for a family reunion, and my mom brought a cake to celebrate my birthday along with the reunion since it's all kind of close by. My cake wasn't the only dessert there. There were 2 other cakes specifically for the reunion itself, and there were cookies and a bunch of other stuff people could have had. It was a large cake and everyone who wanted one had a slice, and maybe about half of it was left, and I really was okay with them having some as well. My mom then says in front of everyone, "I'll save this for your actual birthday so you can bring it to your girlfriend's house." Well, I wake up this morning and the entire cake has been eaten. Not just by my drunk uncles who my dad allowed to eat while I was asleep, but also by my little brother, who by the way I've had several talks with about not eating my food, who decided to have the last slice left this morning. Like, that slice was gonna be my breakfast. I was going to bring that to my girlfriend's house for my actual birthday. Well, when I saw this, I immediately got upset, and I asked my mom why anyone was allowed to eat it. My mom then got mad at me for being upset because she said she would just buy me a single-serve cake from the same place, but in my opinion, that doesn't change the fact that it happened. I didn't want a single-serve cake because it just felt soured now, especially due to my actual birthday cake being eaten. I left the house sobbing because I felt like nobody in my family actually cared about me. Now, part of me feels like that wasn't that big of a deal, and I should not have gotten so upset about it, but the other part of me is still angry and feels very disrespected. So did I overreact here? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I think it's a little bit of an overreaction, but also I can understand where you're coming from. Like, for starters, if someone's gonna say, yeah, this slice is gonna be safe for you, then guess what? It should have been put in a labeled box that says this is for the original poster, like nobody else eat it. So it's really irresponsible that your mom didn't do that and didn't, like, I don't know, try to help you out in some way. But also, I think your mom does have a point. Like, it is just a cake, and this was during a reunion, so of course people are gonna eat stuff. But I don't think it's so deep where it's like, oh man, nobody cares about me. I'm just being written off just like always. Like, no, I don't think that's what's going on. I think that's a big overreach in my opinion. And in that respect, I do think you're kind of overreacting. So it's a little bit of both in my opinion. I think there is some wiggle room to try and make this right, because the suggestion your mom had, I think, is the best way to make this right, and at least own up to the fact that she didn't do enough to try and keep that slice for you, which in my opinion is the biggest part of this that would really upset me. Am I the jerk for refusing to cover for my coworker who quite literally lied to our boss and ended up making me look like the one who messed up when in reality it was him? Because right now this coworker is treating me very differently and I'm not sure how to fix this. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 22-year-old female and I work at a small nonprofit with about 8 staff. It's usually a good team, although everyone's pretty overworked. One coworker, who I will call James, has always had a bit of a habit of exaggerating things and taking shortcuts, but I usually just ignore it and I shrug it off because they're friendly enough and they do get results most of the time. Anyways, James was recently in charge of finishing a big grant report that the rest of us really depended on. The deadline was tight, and the night before, they messaged me and asked me if I could quickly go over a section. I said sure, but when I checked it, a bunch of the numbers didn't line up with the previous reports. I then told James to double check the data, but he just brushed it off, saying that he would clean it up later. The next morning, our boss notices the inconsistencies and calls both of us in. Before I could even speak, James jumped in and said that I must have changed some figures when I edited their section. Basically, he threw the blame on me and I was completely stunned. I had text messages showing that I had told him about the wrong numbers, so I explained exactly that to the boss and I forwarded the exchange. The boss seemed neutral but asked James to clarify, and James awkwardly said that he misremembered, and now things are really weird. Some coworkers think I overreacted or that I should have handled it privately, while others say I did the right thing by not letting someone else pin their mistake on me. James has been avoiding me and giving me short replies in meetings, and I'm honestly not trying to start drama. I just didn't want to get blamed for something I didn't do, but part of me feels guilty that maybe I made him look worse than I needed to. So am I the jerk for refusing to take the fall and telling the boss what really happened? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh no, you're not the jerk here. If someone has the audacity to try and make up some crap about me in public, then you have every right to shut that down in public. Like at that point, any semblance of privacy goes right out the window. Because if you're gonna lie about me in public, I will happily correct you in public as well. And I love the fact that James has no idea what he's doing. Like, I'm convinced. And the only reason he had you look at this report was because he wanted someone that he could use as a scapegoat. He wanted to drag you down with him because he knew he was screwed. And if you didn't say anything, this could have blown up in your face entirely. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for saying something and standing up for yourself, because your coworker was absolutely going to throw you under the bus whether you liked it or not. My entitled boss refused to promote me or give me any kind of reasonable raises after I had done so much for the company and made them well over $1 million. So I decided to get some revenge by literally using my company to learn skills that could get me a job elsewhere, which eventually secured me a job that made more money than my current boss, as this literally changed my life in a way that I will never forget. Here's how it all happened. Early in my career, I worked as an engineer for a defense contractor for about 4 years, getting my typical 4% raises and standard promotions that take years and years to qualify for. I realized that in my current role, I was pretty much maxed out for the foreseeable future, and I would be scraping by for years more. So I tried to get on the management track, and I got given a project engineer position to prove myself with. I managed a team of 4 engineers, a designer, and 2 administrators, and we designed and manufactured a system that made $1.6 million in sales in our first year of work. We got the company a patent, we were nominated by the United States Air Force, and became finalists in the Department of Defense Contractor Technical Team of the Year. Plus, we were flown to DC for a big award ceremony. I spent 100 days away from my family that year, traveling to test locations, customers, vendors, etc., and it was brutal, but we were wildly successful. When annual performance reviews came around, mine was absolutely off the charts. I was thrilled. But then I found out that one of my team members, who also had a different manager, was promoted early to a senior position and that I did not. And I just got the standard 3% raise again. And when I found this out, I was livid. I had a meeting with my boss, and his response was that he didn't think my team member deserved a promotion or a big raise, but he wasn't their boss, so basically I should try really hard again and we'll see next year. But I thought to myself, screw that. I basically quiet quit and just barely worked my 40 hours and then I would just go home. I never traveled unless I really wanted to, and I never stayed late. I took almost every Friday off to burn through my leave, and I took all my sick days as well. Eventually, my mental health was much better. The only thing extra that I really did was take advantage of our education budget that our group had, but rarely ever got used. Now, my previously promoted coworker, who, by the way, I really liked personally, started taking master's degree evening classes, which the company also reimbursed him for, but they also came with obligations to stay there for a certain amount of years. They also had a nice budget for software training, without any kind of stipulations, by the way, so we both signed up for some very advanced classes. We traveled around together, taking these classes and building our resumes. Well, about a month after the classes were finished, I secretly started applying for jobs that required those specific skills, and I very quickly got hired for a position with a base annual income that was quite literally 200% more than my existing rate, plus on top of that, it paid overtime. I then decided to put my notice in, and my boss was really upset. My boss looked at me and said, "We just paid for you to travel all over to learn these new skills that we need. Don't you have any loyalty or guilt?" He then had the audacity to ask me how much I'm being paid there, and then tried to see if they could match the amount. But once I said it, he literally looked at me and said, "That's more than what I make." And you know what? He was right. It was way more, including the overtime, and I made about 3 times the following year for a competitor. So needless to say, my life changed for the better in a very serious way. But it's all thanks to taking advantage of a company that never appreciated me to begin with. Yeah, this is the ultimate way of getting back at your job, especially if they undervalue your skills like this guy was experiencing. Like, he literally made this company like over $1 million. He did all this stuff, he got awards, he was flown into Washington, D.C. for crying out loud, and these people still said, "I'm sorry, but you're not really meant for senior management. Sorry about that, I guess it's not gonna happen." Like, what more could he have possibly have done to try and prove himself? Like, seriously, this is so stupid. So good for the original poster for getting revenge and getting a crazy increase in pay, because you absolutely deserve it after these people definitely took you for granted. Am I the jerk for refusing to lie to the police for my husband by claiming that I was the one that caused an accident and not him? Because after I refused, my husband freaked out on me, saying that I sold him out and that I betrayed his trust. And at this point, I'm honestly really hurt by this and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 30-year-old female and I've been married to my husband for 3 years. He's a good person most of the time, but he can be impulsive and has a habit of acting before thinking things through. Last weekend, he borrowed my car to run a quick errand. A few hours later, I got a call that he'd been in a minor accident. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt, but my front bumper was destroyed, and the other driver's car had noticeable damage. When I got to the scene, the police were already there. It was here that my husband pulled me aside and whispered that he didn't have his driver's license on him because it had been suspended for unpaid tickets. He then begged me to tell the officers that I was the one who was driving. But I said back to him, absolutely not, I wasn't even there, and lying to the police could get me in serious trouble. He then looked panicked and said it would ruin everything for him if he got another strike. But I told him that he should have thought of that before driving on a suspended license. When I refused, he glared at me and muttered, "Unbelievable, you can't even have my back." The officer then asked who had been driving, and I told them the truth that it was my husband. He was then cited for driving with a suspended license and causing an accident. Well, ever since then, he's been furious. He says that I betrayed him and that a real partner would have protected him. In fact, his mother even called me saying that I should have just said it was me since nobody got hurt. But I really don't see how lying to the police and risking my own record was the right thing to do here. But now the whole family's acting like I sold him out, and at this point, I'm not sure if I'm the jerk, and I really just don't know what to do. Okay, your family is crazy if they think this is somehow like your responsibility. First of all, what is your husband doing driving around, dude? Like, this is not okay. He's already not paying like tickets, but now he's driving around and getting in accidents. Like, dude, you should not be behind the wheel. But I can tell you straight up, if my partner was like, "Hey, could you lie to the police for me?" I think I would lose my mind. I'd be like, what are you talking about? Why would I risk going to jail just to lie to the police and be like, "Oh yeah, it was me driving, don't worry about it. My husband had nothing to do with it. It was me in the driver's seat." Like, that is so unbelievably stupid. Like, you've got to be kidding me right now. And it's also insane that he's trying to be like, "Wow, you sold me out. Being my partner means that you have to lie to the police. Come on." And I'm just kind of stunned, to be completely honest. Like, this is so stupid, it's not even funny. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your husband is a moron for trying to get you to do that, and the fact that anybody in the family would be upset about this is crazy in my opinion. Am I the jerk for not wanting my in-laws to stay with us more than once a month? Because as it is right now, they're over at my house way too much, and at this point, I simply can't take it any longer. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I live in a suburb of a large city. My in-laws live about 3.5 hours south in a small city, and they come up often for doctor's appointments, shopping, or just to play around. Sometimes there's a month between visits, but sometimes it's literally every single weekend. Now, I love my husband and my in-laws, but I hate feeling like our home is a hotel. Now, mind you, they can afford a hotel, but prefer to stay with us. My mother-in-law loves to cook, and I used to feel pressure to cook big meals so I wouldn't look lazy. But now I just tell my husband to suggest takeout because I'm just tired of hosting. I also compulsively clean before they come, which drives me crazy. Our house is nearly 5,000 square feet, and I deep clean everything, baseboards included, because I can't stand the thought of them seeing dirt. It is self-imposed and ironic since their house isn't spotless. ridiculous, but I just can't let it go. My husband helps, but he rushes, and I feel bad complaining since at least he's helping me in the first place. This constant open door policy has become a major sore spot in our marriage. Having my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and 2 sister-in-laws stay so often makes me feel like it's not even my home anymore. For context, my parents live 20 minutes away and they visit often, but they do not stay overnight. They come for a few hours, they bring food, they help clean up, and even help with house projects. My in-laws, on the other hand, just drop their plates in the sink after dinner to help out. My husband does help me clean after dinner, but I always feel like the rude one for taking him away from them. He says I should be as welcoming to his family as he is to mine, but it's just not the same. My parents visit, they help, and then they leave, whereas his family stays entire weekends and adds to my workload. As a stay-at-home mom, I feel like the meals and house reflect on me, so it's extra stressful, but he insists that they don't care, but he's also their golden boy. They'd never judge him, just me. To make things worse, one sister-in-law is living with us for 5 months while she's in school. Now, I agreed to this just to be kind, even though I am a bit of an introvert, but I'm terrified the visits will become even more frequent, and my husband just can't say no. The biggest issue is that my mother-in-law can't even take a hint. Even when we're clearly burned out, or when my husband tries to subtly dodge another visit, she keeps asking until he gives in. He doesn't really want them here that often either, but he's scared of offending her. She gets her feelings hurt very easily, and instead of setting boundaries, he says yes and then leaves me to deal with the fallout. So seriously, what's the right move here? Should I ask him to limit their stay and risk offending them? I mean, he's hesitant and it's becoming a major source of tension. I think that once a month overnight visits are perfectly fair, but he says that he can't tell them that. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I really think this falls on your husband to figure out because this is his family. If it was your family doing this, you would obviously step up, but because it's his, he absolutely needs to step up and say something. Because if you do it, they're gonna go to their son and be like, oh wow, your wife is so unreasonable. And then after they guilt trip him further, guess what? He's gonna cave and it's gonna look like this is your fault. So no, you're not the jerk. This is absolutely unreasonable what they're trying to do every single weekend it feels like. And in my opinion, I think you're well within your rights to tell them that they need to chill out. My fiance broke off our wedding literally the day before, as she literally told me all of this the day before after she had flown from North America over to Europe to get married. But now I am completely devastated, as I've not only paid for the entire wedding venue and pretty much everything associated with the wedding in general, but now my fiance's run off and is refusing to respond to me. And at this point, I simply don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 37-year-old male and I was supposed to get married this Friday to my fiance, who is a 34-year-old female. We were together for 2 years in a long-distance relationship, but we met every 3 months. We are both from different countries and she flew here for the wedding, but everything fell apart within a few days. She arrived on Monday and that same morning, I lost my job and I told her not to tell anyone about it. I later found out that she told her friend about it when he arrived the next day, and I felt betrayed because I asked her to keep that private. Well, after her friend arrived, things started changing. My fiance started acting distant, saying that she felt uncertain about the wedding and that we should postpone it. And this was shocking. We were literally days away. Everything was paid for, the guests were invited, and my family was excited. I told her postponing wasn't practical and that we could fix whatever issues we had together. I said I loved her deeply and was even willing to go to therapy after the wedding as she wished, but that postponing a day before wasn't going to solve anything. During those 2 days, we had multiple arguments, and at one point, she and her friend left my apartment unlocked while my minor sister was still sleeping inside, which really upset me and my family. When I confronted her, she apologized to me, but didn't directly apologize to my family, and that really hurt, but even then, I still decided to move past it. I took her on a walk, I tried to comfort her, and I told her that we will get through this. We then hugged and had dinner with my family, and I thought we had resolved things. But the next day, she told me again that she couldn't go through with the wedding. I then told her that if she couldn't marry me now, that I didn't see a point in postponing, that maybe it was better to end it altogether. I said that if she didn't want to marry me on Saturday, then there was no reason to stay in the relationship. Then I got angry and I told her that she needs to pay the wedding expenses. I then took my fiance to my mother, and my mother, who is old, weak, and has kidney issues, found out the wedding was off. She then had a minor heart attack from the stress and ended up in the hospital. My fiance and her friend were also in the room when it happened. My sister got angry and told them to leave, and they packed their things and left my apartment without saying a word. And ever since then, my fiance hasn't contacted me at all. I messaged her later to let her know that my mom was in the hospital, and she only replied the next day by saying, I wish her good health, and nothing else. She hasn't read or replied to any of my messages for 2 2 days, and her phone seems to be on Do Not Disturb. I tried calling, texting her, and I even reached out to her siblings on social media, but I got no response. I even called the police welfare check line here, and they told me she probably was safe and just needed space. I understand she might be overwhelmed, but I can't believe she just left like that. We were supposed to start our lives together. I feel heartbroken, confused, and angry. I also feel like her friend's presence made things way worse, because before he arrived, she was calm, but afterwards, she became distant and almost fixated on postponing, and I just can't shake the feeling that he influenced her decision in some way. I don't even care about the engagement ring financially. I just want it back because it symbolizes what I was ready to give her. I then asked her to return it and help share the wedding expenses since everything was already paid for. I don't want revenge, I just want closure, or at least to understand why she did this. Well, it's been 2 days since she left and I'm still in shock. I can't eat or sleep. I keep thinking that she'll reach out, but I still get nothing. So I really need to know, why would someone end things so abruptly after 2 years and right before the wedding? Is there any chance she might come back to try and make amends? And how do I even begin to heal from something like this? What should I do? Okay, holy crap, this is so sketchy. First of all, why on earth are you getting married to someone that you're only seeing every 3 months? Like, this doesn't sound like a healthy relationship or a relationship at all. So on that end, I think you're very foolish for going through with this and thinking this is gonna work out. But hey, maybe I'm wrong and you guys really do love each other and know each other in that way. So that doesn't excuse the fact that she walked out literally the day before you're supposed to get married. Like, dude, why would she even bother showing up if she's just gonna do that? Now, there is some additional context from the original poster, because he's from Europe and she's from North America, and the guy friend that came along apparently is gay. So there's not like a nefarious cheater situation going on right now. Which, if I'm being completely honest, that's like the first thing that came to mind for me. Like, I really thought for a second there, yeah, she's absolutely cheating on him. And sure, that might be the case, but the way she's going about breaking this off is so weird. Because you don't just decide something like this overnight. You don't spend all this money to fly over to Europe and be like, oh, by the way, oops, I don't want to get married, my bad. Like, she's been thinking about this clearly for a while, and she's only now deciding to cut things off and just kind of run away into Europe somewhere. Like, dude, what is going on right now? That's so stupid. And I hate to say this, but I'm willing to bet that she's probably not going to pay for anything with this wedding. And I'm not saying that's fair, but I'm kind of just looking at this objectively based on the way she's acting after you're like, wait a second, what are you doing? Why would you not get married to me right now? We planned all this stuff. I paid all this money. Like, from the sounds of it, she is gone and she is not coming back. So truly, I am so sorry to the original poster. This really sucks, and you definitely don't deserve this because this really is super messed up. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by realizing that I'm not a wimp when it comes to spicy food, but instead, I'm actually just allergic, resulting in me finally having an epiphany after 29 years. Here's what happened. So I'm a 29-year-old guy from a Mexican family where if a food doesn't make you sweat, it's not a real meal. I've always been the odd one out. My tolerance for spice is basically zero, and I've accepted my role as the family lightweight. Now, my thing has always been salsa verde. Every single time I ate it, my lips would get puffy and tingly. It wasn't like scary swollen, but it was noticeable. And I just thought, okay, cool. This is what a mild spice feels like for a wimp like me. And this really was just my normal. I would take a Benadryl if it felt a bit more intense than usual and then just get on with my day. But the big plot twist happened last Sunday at a family barbecue. We're all eating tacos and I slather on the salsa verde. And within a few minutes, I feel the familiar puff up starting. I nudged my sister and said, whoa, this green salsa has a kick to it today. My lip is already getting fat. She looked at my mouth and then back at the salsa and then just started laughing. She said to me, dude, that's not a kick. Your lip is actually swelling. Mom didn't put any chilies in that. It's just the tomatillo and onion stuff. The whole table got quiet and just stared at my face. And that's when my mom's eyes got huge. She said, that's not spice, you're allergic. You've been having a reaction this whole time and just called it spicy? And it was here that it finally all clicked. For 29 years, I thought my puffy lip was a sign of my weak constitution, but it turns out my body was just having a low-key allergic meltdown to a total normal ingredient. I wasn't a wimp. I was just unknowingly dosing myself with an allergen and treating it with Benadryl. So yeah, I'm not bad with spice. I'm just allergic to the family's safe sauce. I've got an appointment to figure out what exactly hates me, but for now, the jokes at my expense are absolutely relentless. Oh man, I'm so glad that you're actually like finding out that this is like an allergic reaction, but also, holy crap, it's an allergic reaction. You spent so many times microdosing. That's so scary. I don't know about you, but I have a few family members who have like food-based allergies. And man, anytime they have a reaction, it's like the room stands still and we just look at them and we say to ourselves, okay, what's actually going on here? Because in some cases, your throat can close up and that is terrifying. So yeah, I'm glad you got this figured out and hopefully you can find some kind of solutions with your doctor, because I can only imagine the way you felt left out your entire life, but at least you know that you're not just some kind of lightweight and you actually have a legitimate excuse. Did I overreact by asking my parents to leave after my mom grabbed my wife's belly and asked her if she was pregnant? Because in reality, my wife has just gained weight and become very insecure about it. And now at this point, I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 29-year-old male and my beautiful wife had gained a significant amount of weight after our wedding. I think she's gorgeous, but she's insecure about how she looks now. Well, my mom and dad had bought a house that was about an hour-and-a-half drive from us. The four of us were supposed to have a lovely dinner at my home, and my parents had arrived early and my wife hadn't changed out of her cooking clothes. She was just wearing this really tight t-shirt. Well, my mom saw my wife, she grabbed my wife's belly and asked my wife if she was pregnant, to which my wife said no and that she's just getting fat. Now, I didn't want a massive argument, so I rushed my parents out, basically telling them that we have to reschedule, congratulations on the new house, and we'll save them some food later on. And then as she started to cry, I just kept assuring my wife. Well, several days later, I talked to my parents by myself. My mom said that she had made a mistake, but apparently I had taken it too far by asking them to leave, but I basically explained that I could only see that evening getting worse. My dad said that by not allowing my mom to apologize that day, that's now the reason why my wife would see them as jerks. But I literally told my parents that mom can literally apologize now, but they're saying that now it will seem like to my wife that they're apologizing because I told them to. So seriously, did I overreact here by kicking him out? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, holy crap, what in the world is going on here? Who in their right mind would go up to a woman, grab her stomach, and be like, oh my god, are you pregnant? Like, dude, what are you doing? You've got to be out of your mind. Like, you've got to be so incredibly socially ignorant that you don't see that's a bad idea. Like, really? There's already a stigma, at least in American society, about being overweight, and somehow equating that to you not being attractive, which is just not the case, man. So for your mom to go up and be like, oh my god, who's pregnant? Without any kind of evidence of like, yeah, she's pregnant and that's why she has like a bit of a belly. That is crazy, and that is like the biggest social taboo you could possibly do in that moment. And obviously you know that your wife is insecure about this, so if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. I would have told them to leave and said, okay, we got to do this another time, and then comforted my wife because she started crying. There's no excuse for that kind of behavior. And by the way, yeah, they absolutely can still apologize. And it's not because you asked them to. Like, come on, let's grow up. So no, you did not overreact by asking them to leave, because I probably would have done the same thing. Am I the jerk for telling a kid to shut up on the plane after I spend way too long listening to him scream and cry over the dumbest things? Here's what happened. Okay, so today I went on holiday with my wife. We sat at our designated seats, and in front of us there were 3 kids with their mothers sitting parallel to them. Now, 2 of the slightly older kids, maybe 12 years old, were very well behaved, but the youngest, who was like 9 years old, was such a spoiled little monster, shouting and screaming if he would not get what he wanted, not listening to his mother to stay quiet, or in his seat for taking off. He was pressing on the seat in front of him with his legs, and so on and so forth. Now, I was quite irritated and appalled by such bad behavior, and I just looked at my wife with my eyes in disbelief, since the mother tried to keep him under control. The flight took off and he got his iPad and watched cartoons. I had my headphones on and fell asleep, but as the plane landed quite far on the landing strip, we had quite a while to wait. The kid then started screaming and shouting for this and that, throwing a tantrum, and you know what? At this point, I just had enough. I sat up a little bit, I looked at him, and I said, hey kid, you need to shut up. Well, the kid stopped, said nothing, and the mom just said, oh, he's just a kid, like twice. But seriously, if you can't control your kid to the point that I hear him through noise-canceling headphones, then yeah, it's a bit too much. In my opinion, I did everybody a favor. Even his siblings were tired of him, with his brother saying, I mean, he is not wrong, but not exactly right, which I found to be a bit funny. Also, the boy that I told to shut up sat on his seat facing me and stared at me for a while in defiance, I suppose. And I doubt I created trauma or anything like that. So seriously, am I the jerk for telling that kid to be quiet? Because in my eyes, I didn't do anything wrong. Okay, honestly, if I had to deal with a kid like that and they were screaming and shouting, like actually screaming and shouting, and they're not listening, like at that point, if I heard someone say, hey kid, shut up, I would not be surprised. I'd be like, okay, this kind of makes sense. Especially if you've already had like a long flight and you have to wait there even longer just to get to your gate. Like that sounds obnoxious and I would hate that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk because I think what you did is completely necessary. Am I overreacting by blocking my husband's number after he left me and our 7-month-old baby at home all by ourselves, with him basically saying that he's not into being a dad anymore and he doesn't want anything to do with this? Because right now I am heartbroken and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things off, I'm a new mom to a beautiful 7-month-old baby. Unfortunately, I'm navigating deep heartbreak as my husband and the child's father, someone I've been dating since I was 19 years old and who I've been married to for 2 years, chose to leave because he's not feeling it anymore. Don't get me wrong, there were signs. I mean, during the pregnancy, as I got bigger, he seemed to resent my request for help around the house. At one point, when I asked for help taking the garbage out, he said to me, if you want something done, do it yourself. I even fell 2 times taking the garbage out and was shocked at his callousness. This is also a man who was happily in love with me for our relationship and through our wedding, and who I've moved across the country with multiple times, and with whom I share 3 amazing animals and now a baby. Ever since giving birth, he's made allusions to my weight gain and hormonal fluctuation that has made me very emotional. All of this is leading up to his decision 1 month after the baby was born to leave me simply because he's not into it anymore. He moved out and I'm now the primary caretaker, with him visiting sometimes after work or on his days off. Well, for months I've plastered a smile on my face and hoped and prayed that he would realize what he's losing and would want to shape up, but that's just simply not the case. I asked this week to go to couples therapy, which he is refusing to do because it won't fix anything according to him. I accept that he doesn't want me in his life, but my loved ones around me are urging me to take control and stop letting him walk all over me. And as such, I've blocked his number and told him that if he wants to see his baby, we can meet at a fixed location, namely my dad's place, so that I can avoid the heartbreak and anguish of seeing him at our house. He thinks I'm overreacting and doesn't understand why we can't handle this amicably, but what everyone else sees is an overwhelmed, scared, heartbroken mother who's been forced into being a single mom. So am I overreacting by blocking his number and having him see his child only if he's at his dad's house? And am I overreacting for wanting to protect myself by speaking with an attorney instead of an unbiased mediator? I'm deep in postpartum depression and I'm seeking counseling, but I wanted more unbiased opinions because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, before we go any further, the original poster answered the question that I absolutely was going to ask, because they said that they're meeting with an attorney this week and they're going to get things figured out, which is honestly what I was going to suggest. Like, it really sounds like this guy is a piece of garbage, and he literally kicked you to the curb the second he realized, oh wait, I'm going to have to be responsible for a child now? No, I don't think so. I'm suddenly not into this, so I'm going to go. See ya. And it's like, dude, what's going on right now? You're suddenly leaving now that your wife is pregnant? Like, you're such a loser. So to the original poster, I'm so sorry this happened. That must be so heartbreaking, and I can only imagine going through that. So for the sake of you and your child, I hope this all works out in your favor because you guys absolutely deserve it. Am I the jerk for finding out that my boyfriend was lying about me, all because I was secretly listening to him through a device that I had secretly hidden in a common area? Because right now I feel like everything's fallen apart and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been dating my boyfriend for about 2 years now, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him Joe. A few months ago, I overheard Joe talking to someone on the phone and invited them over on a day that Joe knew I would not be home. I suddenly asked him his plans for that day, and he just kind of brushed it off, saying that he wasn't doing anything special, but something just didn't feel right, and I did not trust the person who was going to be visiting. And to be completely honest, they were a very sketchy individual, and they're known to do some pretty horrendous things. So what I did, and I'm not proud of this, is that I got a listening device, and I put it in a common area outside the day that I went away. When I got back, I listened to what was on the device, and I was not prepared for what I heard. Now, I'm gonna give you the short version because there is a lot. Basically, I found out that the sketchy individual did not come over to the house. However, I heard Joe talking to his daughter about me, telling her that he's asked me to change my appearance, and telling her that Joe has repeatedly told me to shave and how it's not appropriate and how I'm refusing to do so, and that I know that he doesn't like it. They were then laughing about my appearance, which really hurt because I thought finally I had a partner who liked me as I was. On top of that, he was telling her that our relationship was over and that he's told me to move out multiple multiple times, which by the way, this is all news to me. I thought we were doing great, and after a year and a half of Joe asking me to move in, I finally did, which is literally 2 weeks prior to this situation. Now, not only did I hear that conversation, but shortly after that, Joe was talking to his friend about all these intricate plans to move out west together, and how I was not only not coming along, but also how our relationship is over. I was really hoping this was just a fluke, and Joe was just trying to get attention or sympathy from his peers, but to be on the safe side, I kept listening for a week, and every single conversation was the same thing, about how the relationship is over and about how he is moving and leaving me behind, how he's asked me multiple times to move out, and how I've been begging him to take him back and all this other crap. And all the time, Joe has no idea that I'm aware of what's going on right now. So after a week, I confront him. He denies everything, and when I tried to have him listen to the audio, he simply refused and just kept talking over it, saying that he doesn't remember any of that. Joe said that the conversation with the friend was not real, and they always make plans, and that I could even ask his daughter because he would never do something like that. He then turned the situation onto me, saying how I can't be trusted because I was listening to his personal conversations, with him also saying that he would never ever do that to one of his partners. So am I the jerk for listening in secretly to his conversations? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh man, this sucks pretty much across the board. Your boyfriend is kind of a piece of garbage for being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna leave her. She's gotta go. I've begged her to leave and she's begging me to stick around. Oh, and by the way, there's a detail here that I missed. Her boyfriend is 58 years old and the original poster is 32. Like, holy crap, that is a jump in age. Like, what's going on right now? None of my business, but just something to point out. But regardless, you now know exactly how your boyfriend feels about you, whether you like it or not. And that really sucks because you did this in a way that is really unethical. So his reaction and being like, wow, I can't believe you actually did that. That, in my opinion, is completely justified. Like, I'm sorry, you kind of did this to yourself. So across the board, I think everyone in this story sucks, both the original poster and her boyfriend, because now it really seems like things are just about to catch on fire, and it's only going to get worse with time, and I just don't see this working out. Am I the jerk for telling my fat friend to stop talking about getting in shape and actually just do it for once, as he literally just waffles about and wastes my time anytime I try to help him out? Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of background information about myself, I am in good physical shape. I diet, I meal prep, and I'm pretty much your average gym bro. But my friend, on the other hand, is medically obese and a gamer. Every couple of months, he'll go on about how he wants to change his life. He wants to get in shape, he wants to start dieting, as well as be consistent in the gym. Then he'll ask me for the same advice I gave him countless times, complain about his lifestyle and why he's fat, and ultimately he'll ask me to start taking him to the gym. He'll then go like one time and then just start flaking out and not go ever again. And then he'll randomly start complaining that I never take him. Then after that, he'll give up and repeat the process again. And I literally cannot tell you how many times I've made workout programs for him, from pep talks all the way to meal prep suggestions and directions. And at this point, I'm sick of it. I told him this time something along the lines of, hey, stop asking me for help. You never take my advice and blame your circumstances on your past. He then went on and told our other friend in front of me, saying, hey, can I go to the gym with you because the original poster doesn't want to take me and help me out? I then went on to tell him that he has no self-control and no accountability, that he literally is blaming all of his mess-ups on other people. And then I told him that if he wants to do it, he needs to do it. Like, stop just talking about it your entire life and instead actually do something productive. So honestly, with all things considered, am I the jerk for the way I handle this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I can completely understand where you're coming from because I'm sure that would be really frustrating. Because you've got it right, man. If you want to exercise and get in shape, you really need to be the one who wants it. And if you don't want it, then holy crap, it's just never going to work out. And it's also super annoying that this guy's trying to be like, you never take me to the gym, almost saying like this is your fault instead of his. And that would probably set my hair on fire. I would be super annoyed by that if I'm being completely honest. So to that extent, I don't blame you for getting upset and I don't think you're the jerk because this guy has got to find motivation in himself instead of trying to place it on other people. My entitled neighbor demands that I snowplow his sidewalk every winter for free, as he claims that since I have so much time to clear my neighbor's sidewalk, I should also clear his out. But despite explaining that I'm helping out a disabled couple in their 80s, this guy literally refuses to listen, saying that he deserves the same type of treatment, leaving me completely shocked at his callous nature and his entitled attitude. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my preschool-aged son and I were walking home from a playground park one fine summer day, and as we turned onto our street, a large man in his early 50s beckoned beckoned us to cross the street. And picture someone who's maybe a third of Jabba the Hutt, like this guy was huge. He was seated on a covered patio about 5 feet above the street level. So we crossed over, and this was on my street about a block away, which was about 10 doors down, and also on the opposite side of mine. The moment we stepped onto the sidewalk, without even introducing himself, and without so much as a hello, he said the following statement that really just made me scratch my head. "Tell me why you don't ever clean the snow off of my sidewalk." His demeanor screamed stern boss calling out a slacker kind of vibes. Did he mistake me for some kind of no-show that he had hired last winter? Had my wife volunteered me to help this guy but forgot to tell me? I mean, that was months ago. The rest of the conversation went approximately something like this. I looked at him and I kind of said, okay, and I wasn't really sure what to say from there. And then Jabba the Hutt looks at me and says, "I seen you clearing snow with a snowblower." And he said this almost like he was making an accusation. I then looked at him and I said, well, yeah. This guy then responded by saying, "And every time you waste hours clearing part of the street." It's here that I try to explain to him that, yeah, I do that so we can park our car, but he literally interrupts me and says, "You have a snowblower. This is easy. You spend all your time on your corner and you clear the street. You should snowblow your way to my place and get my short little walk in no time." I say to him, "Well, it's more work than you think. By the time I finish my property, I'm really tired." This guy then looks at me and calls me a liar. He says, "I seen you. You clean off the walk next to you, and that's longer than mine." But I explained to him that they're a disabled couple in their 80s. They literally can't move heavy snow and they're next door to me. It's just 20 feet. Like, I don't do it to be nice. This guy then looks at me and says, "Well, then be nice to me. I can't lift heavy snow, but you don't care about me. If I want to go out, I have to wait until my sons get here to shovel me out and clean off my car." I look at him and I say, "Your sons? Look, I'm sorry, sir, but I'm not going to clear your snow. Have a good day." But then, as we start walking away, he plays what I think is his last resort. And this is exactly what he said. Because it's here that he screams out, "I could pay you to do it," which honestly is like icing on the cake because this guy was incredibly weird. Man, I hate entitled people like this, especially when they try to double back and be like, "Well, wait, don't just do it for free. Please clean it. Like, I'll pay you to do it." And it's like, dude, if you wanted me to do that, maybe lead off with that instead of being like, "Oh, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it because I want you to. You're already doing it for everybody else. Why can't you do it for me?" And I don't know about you, but anytime someone comes across with that kind of like aggressive attitude, it just sets my hair on fire. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna help you out. I don't care how much you pay me either. Like, you would probably be a nightmare to work with. And I guarantee you this guy would be super annoying to deal with, and I would just hate having to put up with that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My idiot roommate burned my food after I literally put a pizza in the oven. But once I found out about this, I decided to get some petty revenge by ruining their food as well. And with all things considered, I definitely do not regret my decision. Here's how I did it. Years ago, I decided to go back to school for a career pivot. I had to keep expenses low, and so I moved into like a shared student apartment, which was in the basement of an old apartment building. Now, each of us had our own locked rooms along the hallway, but we had a shared kitchen and bathroom. And I've got to be honest, no one really socialized beyond reminders of the e-transfer for the shared internet. One night, I got home from classes and work at around 10 o'clock p.m., and I decided to make myself a frozen pizza. Cash was really tight, so this was a bit of a luxury food item for me. I popped it in the oven at like 375 degrees. I set an alarm and I went back in my room to wait like the 25 minutes recommended by the packaging. About halfway through the cook time, I heard the oven door open, and the only reason I could hear it was because it was old and it always made a loud noise. Then, a few seconds after that, I heard one of the other students closing their bedroom door. I then went to check the oven and I saw that someone had put a big tray of chicken breasts in the oven too. Well, I thought nothing of it and I just decided to go back to my room until the timer was done. Well, when I went out there to pull the pizza out, it was literally mostly burned. This idiot had put his stuff in the oven and cranked it up to 425 without telling me. And it's like, fine, put your stuff in the oven, like I don't care, but don't change the cooking temperature without saying anything first. Because to me, this is a huge jerk move. The pizza was just burned enough to be terrible, but you know what? I still had to eat it. After fuming internally for a minute or two and having a minor existential crisis about how pitiful my life was, I went right back to the kitchen area in a rage and cranked the oven up to 500 degrees, all while his chicken was still in the oven. After a bit, I heard the smoke alarm going off, and shortly after, someone swearing up a storm. I stepped out into the dark hallway and, in a slightly ominous tone, said to him, "Hey, is everything all good, buddy?" He then stammered something about being fine, and it's here that I saw him trying to scrape the charred chicken off the baking sheet. I then went back to my room and I ate the rest of my terrible pizza, and you know what? I moved out not long after that situation, because honestly, with all things considered, this was incredibly upsetting. Dude, if I had a roommate who did that, I would lose my mind. There's no way I would be okay with that. So the fact that you went back out there and ruined his chicken, in my opinion, is really funny and really deserved. My grandmother expects expensive gifts all the time, even though she herself would never spend any money on any of us in the family, and it's now gotten to a point where she's criticizing everything that I spend money on, as she claims it should be given to her instead of spent on whatever I'm doing. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that this is sort of an odd situation. My grandmother has always expected very expensive presents. We're talking like laptops, TVs, new iPhones, or some expensive perfume, etc., but also won't even give anyone else anything nice, and she takes back whatever she gives. For example, she bought some socks and gave me one of the pairs, which was very nice, but then she wanted them back. And when I didn't get them quick enough, which at the time I was downstairs and the socks were upstairs, she started yelling at me just like she always does. She gets angry if a present for someone else is over $25, even if she's not paying for it, and then just makes a scene. Even if we can't afford a luxury present, she will get extremely awful towards us. She'll throw stuff, she'll hit us, she'll give us the silent treatment, etc. And then on top of that, compare her presents between each of the children and grandchildren. She always splurges on herself with fancy perches and extremely expensive shoes or skincare, but then gets angry when it's tax time, or if the electric bill is due, or just makes others pay for her food. It makes everything super awkward, and if she thinks she hasn't gotten the presents that she deserves, she pretends to be sick and just sends everybody home. One time, I said I couldn't afford to purchase a huge bottle of like AmITheA shampoo for her, which is something I wish I could have at the time, but then she would get so angry with me when I would spend money later in the month on different stuff like my feeding tube tape, my textbooks, and then got mad that my partner took me out of the house for a drive around the block after a panic attack, all because of us spending too much money on gas instead of on her. It's not like I waste money on things that I don't need, but I really just don't know what to do. She expects big birthday presents and parties and won't do anything for anyone else and never ever has. But if someone gives me a present on my birthday, she gets really angry at me and says, well, that should be for me and not you. What did you do? She even felt that her friend should have given her their car instead of trading it in for a new one. But my grandmother has her own car. I'm so stressed out because it's almost the holiday season and she is more demanding than ever this year, and I'm personally going through surgeries and I'm in school. So I'm sort of struggling a lot. I wish I could do more and I wish I could give more, but I simply can't. And if I say no, or if my gift just isn't enough, I will be listed as like the worst amongst the entire family. What should I do? Oh man, this is one of those situations where, yeah, you definitely need to put your foot down regardless of what your grandmother says. Like if I was in your shoes and someone even pretended to not like a gift I'm giving them, that's the second I'm gonna stand up and be like, okay, we're done here. There's no way I'm ever helping you with anything ever again. You're not getting a gift out of me ever under any circumstance, and I'm just not gonna play around with this. Because her attitude sucks. Like seriously, think about it for a second. She's sitting there being like, oh, you need to spend more money. And then when you try to spend money on yourself, like for anything, she freaks out and tries to be like, oh wow, that should have been spent on me. I should have gotten gifts. Why are you spending money on yourself? And it's like, dude, I don't know, grandma. Maybe because like I'm a human being and I need to spend money? Like what's going on right now? So yeah, in my opinion, I would definitely start putting my foot down because this is some unacceptable behavior. Like you do not deserve this in the slightest. And I think standing up for yourself would be a very good thing here. My creepy step-grandfather has been treating me incredibly weird while also making me feel very uncomfortable in my own house, putting me in a situation where I seriously just can't take it anymore because I finally put my foot down and put him in his place. Here's how I did it. Okay, I want to say that I'm still on high adrenaline from this one because it literally happened like 10 minutes ago. For a bit of context, I'm a 21-year-old female and I live with my mom and stepdad at my stepdad's parents' place. My parents have lived here for 10 years now, and I used to visit a lot when I was a kid, and I've lived here for about a year now after finally leaving my father's place. Now, my stepdad's stepdad, who we will call Lee for the sake of the story, is an absolute creep, and he is not subtle about it too. Everyone in the family knows, but I genuinely just can't tell if his wife is oblivious to it or just doesn't care. 10 years ago, he tried getting me to spend time with him in his office by showing me animal videos and trying to get me into the Diablo games, but thanks to my instincts around creepy men, I did not go into that office ever again. My stepsisters all experienced him creeping on them too. They've made it pretty clear that he's not invited to their gatherings. Now, for a bit of context about who this guy is, he got scammed out of $30,000 from one of those fake email girlfriends. And in case you're wondering who paid it off, of course it was his wife. He leaves his phone upright on the kitchen counter and gets Discord notifications from creepy servers that he's on, and he only speaks to me or looks at me if I'm wearing shorts, makeup, or a skirt, or if I have a girlfriend over. Otherwise, it's complete radio silence. But you know what? I simply had enough of it today. I'm in raging PMS mode right now. I can hardly stand being around my favorite people people right now, so being around the people that I hate is definitely not easy. Now, I usually just try to let this rage out at the gym, so I got in some shorts and on my way out, I see this idiot staring at me once again. I was so close to saying something, but I figured I should just let it go, get the adrenaline out of my system, and then come home and eat and just try to sleep. Well, after I came home, I finished my dinner, and I was just sitting at the table texting my friend, and this guy came to the table to monitor his insulin. Now, when he showed up, I left the table. I mean, I was not going to sit around there and watch him, and for some reason, that really triggered something in him. Maybe he could sense that I was in a crappy mood and just took that personally. I then throw away my scraps in the garbage, and he comes up to me, gets in my face, and starts yelling at me. He then starts shouting about something along the lines of, "Oh, you know food? Like edible food? It goes in the compost." He then opens up the cabinet under the sink and the compost bin like a raging child. He says to me, "There, right in there," and then he stomps away. As he's going away, I say, "Well, has that always been the case?" Because bro, I'd been here like on and off for like 10 years, and instead of them saying that I need to put food in the compost a single time, he waits for this moment to yell at me about it. Now, he's hard of hearing, so he didn't hear anything I said, but him staring at me earlier and then yelling at me was more than enough for me. So I went over to the living room where he sat down by his wife, and the conversation went something like this. I said to him, "Hey, has that always been the case? I'm supposed to only put food in the compost?" And the both of them looked at me and responded, "Yeah." So I replied back and said, "Well, I've been living here for about a year and I've never been told that." But his wife chirps back and says, "Well, I just didn't know that you were doing that." But to be completely honest, this was a straight up lie. There have been a multitude of times that she'll be doing the dishes at the sink right next to the trash and I'll throw my food away. So I respond back by saying, "Well, I've noticed a lot of times that I won't find out I'm doing something wrong until there's this big angry outburst about it. If I'm doing something wrong, you need to tell me about it when I do it." Lee then responds and says, "Well, every time I tell you, you take it wrong." And I gotta be honest, this was very confusing because everything he's ever told me to do to take care of the shared spaces, I've consistently done. In fact, he stopped telling me to do these things after I asked him if he washed his hands after going to the bathroom. And yeah, guess what? He didn't. And then he went and made dinner for himself and his wife. And I really wish I was making this up. But after he said this was the moment that I chewed him out. I looked at him and I said, "Okay, do you have any examples of me doing that? I've done everything you've asked. And actually, if you need something from me, I want her to tell me." And I pointed at his wife. I then go on to say, "You make me extremely uncomfortable. You only ever talk to me when I'm wearing a skirt, and you stare at me when I'm wearing shorts. You only talk to me when I have my girlfriends over, and when I was a kid, you tried to get me to spend time with you in your office. Also, you leave your phone out on the kitchen counter. I'm not trying to read what's on there, but you leave your notifications on, and what's on there is extremely inappropriate." The wife then chimes in again and says, "Well, I just didn't know you weren't using the compost." Now, at this point, Lee has a moment where he simply can't talk, and oh my god, the look of defeat on his face was legendary. His face just went emotionless. He shrunk down so much and got all quiet after yelling, and then said to me, "Well, how about you ignore me and I'll ignore you?" And when he said this, I gave him a thumbs up and I went right to my room. But with all things considered, it really felt good to finally put him in his place. Okay, someone in the comment section said exactly what I was thinking when it came up, but seriously, the wife's immediate pivot back to the compost situation is like the ultimate example of living in denial. Like, holy crap, talk about just ignoring the obvious red flags right in front of you, lady. This guy's obviously checking out the young lady in your house, and it's like, dude, why are you letting that happen? Why not say something or put your foot down and defend her? Like, what's going on right now? This also begs the question, like, dude, you've got to get out of there. If I was living in that kind of situation, I would want to get out of there as soon as possible. There's no way I would ever want to stick that out. Like, that sounds miserable to me. Especially him checking you out when you're wearing like a skirt or shorts. Like, that is really weird. That's also like super gross. It's like, dude, this guy has no business checking people out like that. Like, that's so uncalled for. So honestly, good for the original poster for putting their foot down, because this guy needed to be put in his place, because the way he was acting was incredibly inappropriate and he deserved this. My entitled boss says that I need to document absolutely everything about my job. So I decided to maliciously comply by doing exactly that, writing him practically a novel anytime I closed out a ticket, which frustrated him to the point where he finally realized that what he was expecting us to do was incredibly stupid. Here's how it all went down. To start things out, I work in IT support for a mid-sized company. I've been there for about 4 years and I've never had any issues until we got a new manager about 6 months ago. And for the sake of the story, let's call him Derek. Derek is one of those micromanagement types who doesn't actually understand what we do, but loves to act like he invented technology. He's always asking for metrics and documentation and making us fill out these stupid stupid forms for every little thing. A couple of weeks ago, I'm helping out one of my sales guys with a pretty standard issue. His Outlook wasn't syncing properly, and this takes me maybe like 20 minutes to fix. And then afterwards, I send Derek the usual ticket summary. Well, Derek calls me into his office the next day, and he says my documentation is insufficient and that I need to be more thorough. He literally said, I want you to document everything, every single step, every click, absolutely everything. Now, I try to explain that that's going to make my tickets way longer to close, but he just cuts me off. I don't want excuses. Document everything. Do you understand me? And I just think to myself, okay, I understand. So I start doing exactly what he said. Every ticket now gets a full novel, and I mean a full one. For example, I would start off by saying, well, at 9:47 a.m., I received a ticket from Janet and Human Resources regarding a printer issue. I walked from my desk to the printer room on the second floor. I then checked the printer display and saw an error code displayed. I then Googled the error code on my phone, and the results suggested a paper jam. And the details went on and on. I think you get the idea. I'm talking timestamps for literally everything. How many steps I walked, which hand I used to click the mouse. If I had to Google something, I document the exact search terms and which result I clicked. My tickets went from like 2 to 3 paragraphs to 4 to 5 pages each. In fact, I'm spending as much time documenting as actually fixing things, and my closing ticket count drops by about 40%. This goes on for about 2 weeks, but then last Friday, Derek calls a team meeting. He's all flustered, saying our department metrics are unacceptable, and wants to know why ticket resolution has slowed down so much. So I very calmly pull up one of my recent tickets, and I ask if he wants me to read through my documentation, and he actually says yes. So I start reading out loud every single word. About 3 minutes in, he tells me to stop and says, "This is ridiculous. Nobody needs that much detail." But it's here that I remind him in front of the entire team that he specifically told me to document everything, every single step, every single click, absolutely everything. And it was here that one of my coworkers actually had to leave the room because she was trying not to laugh. Derek then just stares at me for like 10 seconds and then says to me, "Okay, well, just use your best judgment going forward." And then he ends the meeting. I'm now thankfully back to my normal documentation. He hasn't really micromanaged me ever since then, but even considering all that, maliciously complying in this way was still completely worth it. Man, why is it always the new manager who screws everything up? The original poster's been working there for what, 4 years, and they've never had any issues until this new guy shows up and says, "Oh, I'm gonna make this a nightmare for all of you." Like seriously, let this be a lesson to anybody coming in as a manager. Just be cool, man. Don't be weird about this stuff. Like seriously, take a step back and be like, okay, I don't know the dynamics of this group. I'm just gonna go in here and try to be a good manager. I'm not gonna be a jerk. I'm not gonna put people down. I'm gonna try and listen to my team and see what the actual needs are. But this Derek guy instead was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna micromanage like crazy because this is my job. I now have a little bit of power and I'm gonna go nuts with it." So yeah, I love the fact that the original poster basically put them in their place and said, nope, you're not gonna act like that. Because this Derek guy would have gotten really under my skin. Like, I can't stand when people act like this. So the fact that you got him back in this way, in my opinion, is just so glorious and so needed. My entitled sister-in-law thinks that my kids aren't real family and completely ruined her wedding photo simply because they're not blood related. Because honestly, this entire situation is really messed up and I'm just not sure how to handle it. Here's how it all went down. For some quick background, I'm married to my wonderful husband, who I will call David for the sake of the story. He's the amazing stepdad of my 2 kids from a previous relationship, and they adore him and they call him dad. A few months ago, David's brother got married. David was a groomsman, and since it was a family affair, our kids attended the church ceremony. The reception was adults only, so we had a babysitter lined up. After the ceremony, I was walking the kids out to the car to take them to the sitter, and suddenly David comes running out, telling me to wait. The photographer was gathering everybody for the big official family portraits on the risers, and we were needed. So I brought the kids back in, and the photographer placed all of us, namely me, David, and my 2 kids, in the group photo with the entire extended family. It took maybe 5 minutes, and then I left to drop them off. But when I got to the reception, the atmosphere was icy. David's entire family was avoiding us. Finally, David cornered his sister, who is my sister-in-law, just to ask what was going on. And this is where the entitlement really kicked in. My sister-in-law informed him that she was furious at me. Now, you might be wondering why, because honestly, I haven't done anything, but apparently it's because I had allowed my children to be in the family photo. Her 2 toddlers hadn't been at the ceremony, so in her mind, my children's presence made the photo incomplete and ruined. She then dropped this gem. "Besides, they aren't even blood. They shouldn't have been in a family photo to begin with." But it gets way worse because the entire family sided with her. They all agreed that I should have known better and that my kids had no place in the picture. The blame was 100% on me, even though their own brother, namely David, was the one that called us over. Now, the final cherry on top was my mother-in-law actually calling the photographer the next day to specifically cancel that group portrait. She said she would rather have no photo at all than to have one with her step-grandchildren in it. Now, I was so stunned by this so I called my sister-in-law hoping to clear the air, but she refused to even discuss the photo. Instead, she launched into a rant about all my other flaws, her biggest complaint being that David and I are too romantic because we hold hands at family events. So, because my husband wanted his beloved stepkids in one photo, my sister-in-law decided that she had the authority to dictate who is the real family, and my mother-in-law tried to erase that moment completely. The entitlement is just breathtaking, and I'm honestly just not sure what to do. Oh my gosh, these people suck so badly. And the worst part about it is, I can see this happening because I've met people like this. They see these innocent kids as like, I don't know, stains on the family, where they act like, oh, well, you're not blood related to me, so you're not gonna be in any family photos. Like, why not embrace these people as new family members and be decent human beings? Like, talk about setting up a horrible precedent for the future. Like, this is so uncalled for. So truly, I'm so sorry to the original poster and for your kids for having to deal with that, because this behavior is uncalled for and completely unacceptable. My entitled neighbor demands that I keep my dogs inside so that their cat can roam free in my backyard, saying that my dogs don't need to be outside and that their cat actually takes priority. Things got so bad that they said if I don't obey their commands, they'll call animal control on me just to get my dogs taken away, putting me in a situation that I never thought I'd ever be in my entire life. And right now, I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my next door neighbors moved in about a year ago. Both of us have front yards, with theirs being a bit bigger than mine. Both yards are fenced in, and when the weather permits, I work on my porch and my dog just kind of lays around, meaning that my dog will just sleep or play around, but never in a way that would disrupt the peace. And that's something that we've been doing ever since we came here about 4 years ago. Now, my neighbors got a cat about 6 months ago and decided that this cat would be left to come and go. But because of that, their cat has basically made it into a habit to get into the pots in my yard. I've spent a great deal of time making that yard mine and my dog, so the pots contain plants that are dog safe. My dogs will usually stare at the cat and get near it, but they wouldn't chase the cat because they've been trained not to do that, and then the cat will automatically retreat back to their own yard. And if it's in my yard when we come out, it will run back as well. I've never chased the cat, nor do I let my dogs out to chase it or do anything like that. And trust me, that is going to be important for context. Earlier today, when I came back from our morning walk, I found a note from my neighbors demanding that I keep my dogs inside because their cat doesn't like them and likes to be in my yard. Well, I then went to see them and I told them in no uncertain terms that I would not comply to their demands, that my dogs are in their own yard and that they're not attacking or even chasing their cat. Now, you might be wondering, what was the response of these neighbors? Well, they said that I'm already taking my dogs on walks and training them 2 times a day minimum, and they said they know that I take them for hikes during the weekend as well. So in their eyes, they don't need to be out otherwise. They said that their cat is mostly outdoors and that apparently it's cruel of me to deprive it from going in my yard, especially since it likes lying down in some of my plants. When they said that, I told them to start taking care of their yard and add the plants their cat likes. But in return, I got a door slammed in my face with a threat to call animal control on me the next time their cat runs from my yard to theirs. I'm now trying to figure out what my next move is, while wondering where in the world does the entitlement potion they seem to be drinking come from, and who produces it, because this is honestly mind-blowing and I just don't know what to do. Before we go any further, I want to give an update because the original poster has a lot of things they wanted to say. Here's what's happening so far from the original poster. First of all, thank you everybody for your comments and your support. After getting through all the comments, I've decided to go with quite a few of your suggestions. For starters, I've changed the angle of one of my cameras, but also I have ordered an additional one that will be positioned to track all of the front yard. Secondly, I'll be upping my lavender, rosemary, and geranium game as well, and I'll keep on researching other plants. Also, as many people have suggested by the way, I'll sprinkle and throw catmint seed on their lawn when they're not looking and get my other neighbor to do it as well. The third thing I'm doing is that today I'm definitely getting oranges and I'm using peels as repellent. I'm definitely grabbing pine cones too on our next hike to add to the arsenal. And the fourth update is that I've rechecked the local bylaws, and there may not be any leash laws for cats, but it's actually stated that cats are to be contained on their owner's property. So I'll just give a call to animal control to start a documentation trail and ask them if they could issue a warning to the neighbors along with a kind reminder of the law. I also want to address a question and a comment that has been made a few times. People have asked, okay, well, how come your dogs don't go after the cats, but one of them will hunt birds and you're having trouble stopping that? And for a bit of reference here, that's basically like a conversation that I had in the comment section amongst like the users and the original poster. And the original poster is just kind of answering that here. They go on to say, well, my dogs have been around my friends' cats ever since they were puppies, and they were rightfully taught that cats are not prey or toys. It's okay to be around the cats and cuddle or play, but not with the mouth. It's not easy to teach, but it is feasible. Now, as for the second part, anyone who has had Huskies or Alaskans, or a stubborn dog in general, knows that some battles are longer to win, especially when prey drive is involved. In any case, me and the dogs are going to enjoy our yard together, knowing that I've covered all the bases, especially regarding Mr. Fluffy's home invasions, because my entitled neighbors are definitely not going to stop me. Wow, dude, like imagine having the audacity to sit there and be like, you need to get your dogs out of your own yard. My cat likes staying in your yard. You need to let him do that. It's like, dude, no, that's not happening. Why should I have to change my entire life around, all because you don't know how to watch your stupid animals? Like, come on now. That's so stupid. That really is ignorant if you ask me. It's also concerning that they try to be like, oh, we're gonna call animal control if you don't obey us. And it's like, dude, that goes both ways, man. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm sure the original poster didn't even have that idea of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna call animal control on this person. If anything, they probably just wanted this resolved and over with. Like, I know I would, but if these people want to up the ante and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna do that, it's like, okay, I guess I have to look into it now. But good for the original poster. I think it's really smart they're putting cameras up and they're covering all their bases just in case anything happens, because this sounds super annoying and I would really hate having to deal with that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for leaving my friend stranded after she showed up late for the third time in a row on our way to work? And despite the fact that my job is on the line and my boss has basically threatened to fire me if I'm late again, my friend was still late and so I just left her behind, putting me in a situation where I just seriously don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to start things out, I'm 23 years old and I drive a small Honda Accord, and I usually give my friend, who we will call Tina, who's 22, rides to work since we live close by and start work at around the same time. We both agreed that she helps with gas every 2 weeks and I pick her up on my way. And this worked fine for the first month without any kind of problems. But after the first month, she started running late very frequently. Every single time I text her I'm outside, and she'd take like 10 or 15 minutes to come out, sometimes even longer. I've tried being patient, but I just kept showing up late to work because of it. My boss even noticed once, which really isn't a good sign. So I decided to talk to her about it. Last Friday, I warned her that I'd only wait 5 minutes because I couldn't afford another late mark to risk my job. When I pulled up, I texted her, I'm here, and she said 1 second, but after waiting 5 minutes, I called her, but she didn't answer. I waited another minute and I called her again, but I got the same thing. Well, after waiting and trying to stay true to my word, I decided to leave. About 15 minutes later, she spammed my phone with tons of messages saying that I abandoned her and made her walk in the heat and that she missed the first part of her shift. But I told her I was sorry, but I had already warned her multiple times. But she said I should have waited because that's what friends do. She hasn't spoken to me ever since then, and one of our mutual friends said that I was kind of harsh and I could have just waited 5 extra minutes to keep the peace. But now I'm kind of wondering if I was too rigid about all of this. I know life happens, but I feel like she just didn't respect my time. So am I the jerk for leaving without her after she made me late so many times? Because right now I'm just not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, in my opinion, if you give somebody so many warnings and say, hey, I'm gonna leave early, you're making me late, you're gonna cost me my job, like at that point, there's no excuse. You've given her so many chances to improve her behavior. You've even said, hey, if you're more than 5 minutes late, I'm leaving. Like, she really did know this was going to be the end result. She knew that you were gonna leave her in the dust if she didn't improve her behavior and actually, like, I don't know, get herself up and ready on time. Like, I'm sorry, but there's really no excuse for this. Like, if my friend said, hey, my job's on the line, you need to hurry up, at that point, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be like 10 minutes early. I'm gonna be waiting outside saying, hey, I'm here, I'm ready whenever you are. Because that's what friends really do. They don't sit there and be like, you should have waited 15 minutes and gotten fired. What's your problem? It's like, no, dude, I'm gonna be on time. Her giving me a ride is like a luxury, and it's something that I'm absolutely taking for granted. And Tina in the story absolutely did that. So no, you're not the jerk. Your friend and any other mutual friends trying to be like, oh, this was really harsh. Like, that is garbage in my opinion and absolutely unacceptable. An entitled jerk walks up to my property and demands that I let his kids ride on my horses. And despite the fact that I explained to him multiple times that this was incredibly dangerous, he still refused to take no for an answer, eventually leading to this guy flipping me off after I told him no and he stormed off. Here's how it all went down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that this happened a few years back. I rented a small block of land just outside of town to keep my horses in them. Horses weren't really common in the area, but also there were a lot of residential areas around. So sometimes I would turn up to my pasture and people would be there with their children petting the horses over the fence. But this didn't bother me, as both my horses are pretty nice and they are polite to pet. Now, one day I was out there just doing chores, like weeding the garden, cleaning, fixing fences, etc. Just normal horse stuff that you would do pretty much every day. I had my headphones in and I'm working away when I suddenly hear someone shouting. I look over to the gate by the road and I see a man and two young girls there, maybe about 7 or like 5 years old, beckoning me over. And so I walk over, assuming they want a pet and maybe like feed a carrot to the horses. I say hello and the first thing he said was, "My kids want to ride your horses." Not even him asking, "Hey, can my kids ride your horses?" No, this guy was basically demanding it happen. Now for reference, my horses were ex-race horses who were still trying to learn where the off button was. Plus, these were very large, strong, and highly trained animals. So it was safe to say that even if I wanted to let the kids ride them, these horses were not child safe. So I explained this to him, adding in that I didn't have any of my riding gear with me, as I hadn't planned on riding that day. But when I said this, the dad just rolled his eyes and said to me, "It's not that hard, just put them on the horses and lead them around," all before trying to open the gate to let his daughters in. Now, lucky for me, I always keep the gate padlocked, as it led to a busy road and I didn't want the horses getting out. But I again explained that they couldn't ride my horses, and he was better off looking for a riding school or a trail riding place if they really wanted to ride. At this point, he realized I wasn't budging. Plus, my horses had walked off to the other side of the field behind a tree line, so they were completely out of sight. So he turned back towards the car while loudly saying, "Come on, girls, this mean lady doesn't think you deserve to ride horses," which then caused the kids to start crying as he loaded them up in the car before flipping me off and taking off down the road, which is a scenario that I don't think I'm gonna forget anytime soon. Yeah, that's some serious entitlement you got there, dude. Like, what's going on right now? He literally walked up and said, "My kids are riding your horses and you can't stop me." Like, dude, you clearly don't care about your kids because horses are very dangerous animals, especially a stubborn horse that is like a previous racehorse. Like, I can't imagine what that would be like. So yeah, this guy was out of his mind for being like, "Hey, you know that dangerous horse? Put my kid on top of it. They want to take a ride." Like, that is super irresponsible, and I'm so glad that you shut that down because that guy was being super weird. Am I overreacting by refusing to let my sister move in with me after she accidentally sold my stuff during her garage sale? Because right now I'm still pissed off despite the fact that a lot of people are saying I'm overreacting. And at this point, I just don't know if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my sister and I grew up close, but our relationship has always been rocky when it comes to boundaries. I let her stay in my house for 2 months while she got back on her feet after a breakup. And while she didn't pay rent, she did actually help with groceries, so I didn't mind. Last weekend, I came home from work and there's a full-blown garage sale happening in my driveway. Tables are everywhere, there's people browsing, and when I walk up, I see my vintage record collection, my hiking gear, my late father's leather jacket, all with little price tags all over them. And when I saw this, I completely lost it. She tried to calm me down by saying, "It's just stuff you never use. I thought I would declutter for you." And she even said that she'd split the money with me later. But I told everyone to leave and shut the sale down immediately. She then got defensive and said that I was making a scene. And when I told her to pack her things and go, she burst into tears, saying that she had nowhere else to go and that I was overreacting to a misunderstanding. My mom is siding with her, saying that family helps family, but I feel completely betrayed. Those records were worth thousands, and my dad's jacket was priceless. I mean, it had sentimental value. But even then, she still doesn't understand why I'm furious. So am I overreacting by not letting her move back in and going no contact for now? Because right now, I really just don't know what to do. Okay, if this was me and someone tried to sell my stuff like that, I would be super pissed off. That is like a serious violation of boundaries. And I can't believe I have to say this, but this is not something you have to like spell out when someone moves in. Because good lord, you don't sell stuff that your roommate has under the guise of being like, "Oh yeah, I'm helping you declutter. You don't even use half this stuff anyways, it's fine." It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I don't care if this is your sister or not. This is some crazy behavior, dude. You don't just set up a garage sale and be like, "Oh no, you're gonna thank me later." Like, holy crap, if that happened to me, I'd be so upset. So no, you're not overreacting. I would absolutely do the same thing because I could no longer trust this woman, especially if she tried to sell stuff that clearly had sentimental value that I'm willing to bet she definitely knew about in the first place. Am I the jerk for asking and then demanding that my roommate replace the drinks that he had taken out of the fridge that were mine, all without my permission? Because after I complained to the landlord, this guy's getting evicted. And at this point, I feel awful and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm a 22-year-old male and I've been living with my roommate who's 34 for a few months now. We didn't know each other before moving in together, and he was already living there when I moved in. I've only ever lived with cousins or friends, so I was really nervous and wanted to set some boundaries early on. So I told him that I don't like sharing groceries except for like cleaning supplies, but that if he ever used or took something, he should at least let me know, though ideally not use my stuff at all in the first place. Thankfully, he agreed and shared his own boundaries, which I've respected. The next day, I bought a 6-pack of alcoholic drinks in case my friends came over, and a week later, only 2 of them were left. I then asked my roommate if he drank them, and he claimed I must have drunk and just forgotten that I did it. It's important to note that I only drink socially and never to the point of blacking out, so that just wasn't true. So I told him I'm not mad about the drinks, but instead I'm just mad about being lied to. But when I said this, he doubled down. Now I just let it go to avoid conflict, but I told our landlord who lives upstairs just to keep him informed, and I explicitly said that I didn't want him to take any action since I wanted to keep the peace. Then a few days later, my kitchen scissors went missing. Since the last time I confronted him didn't go well, I decided not to this time and just compromised by using scissors from my sewing kit until I could buy new ones. But then those also went missing. So I finally asked him if he had seen them, and he just said no again. At that point, I was frustrated, and I told the landlord again, reminding him about the drinks, and he said that he would talk to my roommate. The very next day, my roommate admitted to taking the drinks, blamed his drinking problem, and then apologized. He then insisted that he would replace them plus extras. I told him he didn't have to, but just not to do it ever again. And yet he still insisted, so I agreed. Well, 2 months went by with no replacement. I've been short on money lately, and my friend's birthday party is coming up where we each bring something. So I asked him if he could finally buy me that 1 pack that he promised. Now, if he had said no, I would have dropped it, but instead he said he thought I had just let it go and then called me a petty little jerk. And that's when I stopped asking and demanded that he replace what he took. He stole from me, he lied about it, promised to make it right, didn't follow through, and still insulted me for bringing it up. Our landlord heard the argument and came downstairs, and it's here that I explain what happened, and it ended up with my roommate getting an eviction notice. Ever since then, I've kept my food and kitchen stuff locked in my room with a mini fridge that I bought after he stole my first drinks until he moves out, which is all literally just in case he steals something else. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, if this guy's getting evicted after something like this, then I guarantee you there was a lot of things before that he just wasn't doing. Like, I'm sure he was probably a menace to pretty much everybody who's lived there before you, and I bet this was probably like the last straw for your landlord. So no, you're not the jerk here. This guy stole from you. He never replaced the items that he took, and then he tried to act like you're the problem, when in reality, clearly based on the way the landlord reacted, this guy was absolutely at fault pretty much the entire time. My entitled neighbor barks at some construction workers, complaining that they're parking their stuff in front of his house. And despite the fact that it's a public parking space, I decided to get some petty revenge by convincing them that they should probably keep it there for like a night longer, especially after my rude neighbor got really pissy with them for literally no reason. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I simply can't stand my neighbor, as he is literally a terrible person. My neighbor on the opposite side, who I am actually friends with, is getting some excavation work done in his yard. The crew dropped their equipment off Sunday night on our street. Well, in front of the mean neighbor, they parked the truck and trailer carrying the backhoe, and they were probably a good 15 feet back from his driveway, a minor and temporary inconvenience for most people not possessed by the spirit of Satan, but I just knew that he was gonna get pissed off about it. He hates anything parked in front of his house, even though it's a public street. The excavation was a 2-day job, so they were noticeably finishing up this afternoon, which is right when the mean neighbor put out his trash cans. He put them so close to the front of the worker's truck that they will have to reverse the trailer in order to pull away from the curb and not hit the cans. He then got in his car and backed out of his driveway. Well, he saw the workers and simply couldn't resist the temptation to roll down his window and start barking at them about, "Okay, when are you going to move that big ugly thing from in front of my house?" A worker very patiently responded, "Well, we're finishing up right now, sir." But eventually the mean neighbor finally drove off. I quickly walked outside and went to the worker, and I said to him, "You know, as close as those trash cans are to your truck, I don't think the trash truck will be able to reach them, and they'll probably skip his collection. It would be just terrible if you guys let the trailer sit there one more night." The guy then cracked a smile as I bid him goodnight. Well, it's late evening here and the trailer is still sitting out there. My neighbor's fuming, and honestly, this guy absolutely deserves it. Okay, seriously, people who act like this where they're like, "You can't park in front of my street," despite the fact that the road is a public road, make me want to park in front of their house. Like, seriously, this is so stupid. You clearly don't live in a private country club, buddy. Like, what are you doing? You can't just sit there and be like, "When are you guys gonna get out of the way? You know, get that trailer out of the way that's not even blocking my driveway." Like, yeah, it's gonna be a problem for now, but it's not blocking anything. You could still get around just fine, and it's not on your property, dude. Like, chill out. So I love the way the original poster basically convinced these guys to keep it for like one more night. Literally just to spite this neighbor, because yeah, they've got it right. This guy really does deserve to have his feathers ruffled, especially if he's gonna be this rude all the time. Am I overreacting by telling my parents that they're stealing my food pantry items that I literally got so that I could try to save money? Because right now they're giving me a hard time and I simply just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm an 18-year-old female and I've just started college. I'm still dependent on my parents and I still live with them. They pay for my toiletries and phone bill, but honestly, that's it. I have to pay for my own food, my insurance, and my own tuition. And I have to do this because their income is too much for me to get financial aid. And luckily, I go to a community college, so it doesn't cost that much. Now, I have a really crappy job. I'm currently looking for a new one, but right now, per bi-weekly paycheck, I get around $250 due to low shifts. Just enough to save up and pay my bills at the end of the month, and maybe get some food sometimes. If I can't feed myself, my parents let me eat with them, but they make me feel incredibly bad about it. Now, I've just found out about and begun going to the food pantry my school offers to avoid this, because then technically I'm not leeching off of them, and it comes to no cost of them, and instead it's just anxiety and embarrassment for me. I told them about it because I thought they would be happy that I found an affordable way to get food for the week and still be able to pay my bills. I get to bring home a certain amount of canned food, some meats, miscellaneous items a week, and I brought the groceries I grabbed for myself home. I put them in the pantry where I usually keep the things I buy for myself. Well, just 30 minutes ago, I went downstairs, and my parents had gotten into the box of chocolates they'd given me at the pantry, and my mom had used my tuna cans for the cats, which is the exact opposite of why I bought them. Like I literally was going to use them for sandwiches. When I got upset, they said I wasn't allowed to be. They said it's not like they're taking from me because I never bought it, so apparently it doesn't belong to me. Basically, I told them that that wasn't fair. Sure, I didn't pay for it, but it was still mine, and I was using it because I was trying to save money for the week. But then they tried to say, oh, it's only fair because I had been eating with them. And then they repeated that I didn't pay for it, so it wasn't mine to claim. And at this point, I'm just pissed off. But at the same time, I can't argue because I live in their house, and they are right. I never paid for any of it, so what's my claim to it? So am I overreacting for thinking they stole from me and telling them that it's not fair? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, no, you're not overreacting because I think your parents are completely wrong. Like, first off, they are not right here, and you do not have to agree with them. That food is absolutely yours. You got that food for yourself because guess what? You have no money, and your parents are too cruel and unusual to let you eat with them. Like, what's going on right now? That's so dumb. Especially when they're trying to act like, oh, well, you didn't buy any of this food, so it's not technically yours. But I would fire right back at them and be like, okay, well, it's not yours either, so I'm just gonna take all of it to my room. That's what I would do. I would start protecting that at all costs and be like, no, I'm gonna keep this in my place. I'm gonna put it under lock and key and you can't have any of it. Especially if they're just gonna take it and try to act like, oh, well, it's nobody, so I guess we can have it. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't bring it into the house for me specifically or anything like that. What's wrong with these people? They are so selfish. So no, you're not overreacting. These people are absolute idiots in my opinion, and you do not deserve to get treated like this because holy crap, your parents sound incredibly toxic and very entitled. My entitled family is furious with me after they found out I got a scholarship for a program in London, as they claim that if I go and do this, then I will be abandoning the family. And right now, I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because I seriously do not know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 20-year-old male and I'm the middle child in a family that honestly feels like a case study for what family therapy tries to prevent. My mom has an addiction to drinking, with serious psychological issues and a bit of an Oedipus complex that even Freud would not know what to do about. My older brother, who's 28, is a bit of an addict who dropped out of college years ago and survives off debts and favors that usually I end up paying for. My teenage sister can't even make her own breakfast, and my 12-year-old brother, who's autistic, is probably the most emotionally mature person in the house. And with that, basically, I've been taking care of everyone for as long as I can remember. I don't want to sound like a victim, but it is honestly the truth. When I was a teenager, I spent countless nights picking up my mother from work events where she would get drunk until she passed out, urinated all over herself, and started yelling at her coworkers. My older brother was constantly asking me for money so that he could pay off his debts from buying all kinds of substances, if you know what I mean. And my sister always came to me crying after another fight with my mother, or whenever she needed money for some emergency that turned out to be movie tickets. But a few weeks ago, I received the best news of my life. I was accepted into a scholarship and internship program in London. It was an incredible opportunity because it was something I had worked hard for while studying and working 2 jobs. And you know what? When I found out out about this, I cried. I'm not even ashamed of it. For once, I felt that all the sacrifice and sleepless nights had been worth it. And then that night, I told my family, foolishly expecting them to be proud of me, but as you can probably guess, they weren't. My mother basically asked me who would help her pay the bills when I left, and then she started yelling across the dining room. My older brother told me that it must be easy to run off to Europe while leaving them to sink in this boat, and my sister accused me of abandoning her, saying that I had promised her I would always be there for her, and then brought up some mistake I made when I was 16 years old. Even my little brother called me an idiot, although I am pretty sure he was just repeating what he had heard others say. They basically all called me selfish when in reality, I'm still the invisible pillar of this family. I don't earn much money, but everything I have ends up in their hands somehow. I never thought about abandoning them or cutting off contact, but their reaction really left me dismayed. I've been selling my things, saving every single penny, organizing my paperwork, and preparing to leave at the end of the year. None of them even talk to me anymore. And honestly, this time I'm not going to apologize for taking a chance or thinking about what they want. But I can't help thinking about how much my family will fall apart if I leave, even though I'm not even thinking about leaving for good. They don't even talk to me and they spend their time talking crap about me. Honestly, the one I'm most worried about is my younger brother because it's not his fault. So seriously, am I the jerk here because I just don't know what to do? Holy crap, you had better take that scholarship and run for the hills, dude. No, you are not the jerk for wanting to further your life. Are you serious right now? You've got a scholarship and internship program in London. You're quite literally able to get out of there and live your own life and start over, basically. Because dude, just look at what you're like leaving behind. Your mom can't hold a job, your brother's a deadbeat, your sister's talking garbage about you. Meanwhile, your youngest brother just doesn't understand the total depth of like what's going on. So like all of that mixed together just sounds really miserable in my opinion. And this is literally your ticket out of there. So no, you're not the jerk for leaving your family. If anything, this is going to be good for everybody. This will be good for you because you can then live your life in the way that you want to live it. And also it gives your family the chance to step up and actually fend for themselves instead of just strictly relying on you. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled niece started yelling during a funeral service, all because she wasn't included in the will, putting me and everybody else there in a really weird spot because this truly was incredibly unacceptable. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I used to work in community home care assisting the elderly. I was employed as a carer with an organization who received government funding. Now, we had a client who we will call Rose for the sake of the story, who was in her mid-90s living on her own. She had never married, had no kids, and owned her own modest home and had very little money in the bank. But with that being said, she wasn't rich by any means. She had only one younger sister who we will call Sue, who was also still living. Sue lived about 20 minutes away, and Sue's children also lived local as well. Rose had a nephew who we will call Bill, who lived 2 hours away with his wife who we will call Lynn. Bill and Lynn were Rose's primary emergency contact, so they were the only family I ever spoke with or even met in regards to Rose and her care. They used to come down and see her as often as they could, and would sometimes take her away for a few days. They were very pleasant to deal with and always seemed very kind to Rose. Now we, as an organization, would visit Rose every day to check up on her. I mean, I used to go there at least like 4 times per week and did this for about 4 years until she went into a nursing home. In that time, I never met or spoke to Sue or any of Sue's children, and to our knowledge, she never got any visits from them either. None of my other coworkers had seen them either the last few years we assisted her. Now, another person who had been assisting Rose longer than I had said that she had noticed that Sue's family had stopped all contact after Rose changed up her will, leaving her assets to Bill and Lynn, as well as some money to be donated to charity. The other carers and I assisted Rose with shopping, cleaning, showering, cooking, and scheduling, and getting to medical appointments. The last few years, she showed some mental decline, so we had to take a fair bit of initiative just to ensure that she was getting looked after. Bill and Lynn helped as much as they could, but to be honest, they were simply too far away, and they were happy to let us manage most of it all, and they were really grateful for it. Rose was a really funny, quirky woman, and we really were fond of her. She eventually had a fall and ended up in the hospital, and Bill and Lynn made the decision to put her in a nursing home, and they actually found one near where they live so they would be close by. Now, when we heard this, we also agreed with the decision, as we really felt it was time, and she needed more assistance with the tasks that she was doing. She was in care for about a year when she passed passed away, and at this point she was 98 years old. Now, we did hear that Sue and her family had visited her in the hospital before she had gone into care, and that they had also turned up at her nursing home and had tried to take her home with them, but they hadn't been successful because they were not her next of kin. Now, myself and a few other people who took care of her all decided to go to her funeral service, and this is where things get incredibly sketchy. Halfway through her eulogy, Sue's daughter, who we will call Karen, and yes, that fake name is definitely intentional, decided to stand up and started yelling at Bill and Lynn. I can't remember everything she said, but I distinctly remember her pointing at the coffin and saying, "You're the reason that she's in there." And then she stormed out. When she did this, there was dead silence for a few minutes, and then the funeral did continue, but that's all that everyone could even think about. It was the most disgusting behavior I've ever seen. So disrespectful to Rose and her memory. We later heard that Sue and Karen had contested the will, because apparently Karen had also turned up at Rose's house after Rose had gone into care and had been bothering the new tenants who were living there at the time. A few years later, we then heard from a friend of Rose's that Karen had backed off contesting the will because Sue had passed away and she had gotten some kind of inheritance because of that, which honestly makes that entire situation at the funeral incredibly unacceptable. Wow, imagine being so entitled that you not only bring this up in front of the entire family, but you also do it at the funeral of the person you're like pretty much screaming about. Like, holy crap, that is some serious entitlement. I can't even begin to understand that. Because in my opinion, this kind of shows exactly why Karen and Sue were not in the will at all. And I think it was really wise of Rose to be like, yeah, they're not going to get anything, because clearly they never cared about her in the first place. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate that I'm not splitting groceries with her anymore after she literally started eating everything that I bought for myself? Because right now she's saying that I'm being passive aggressive and trying to act like she's really offended over this. And at this point, I just simply don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm a 26-year-old female and I live with my college friend who we will call Jess, who's also about 27 years old. When we moved in, we agreed to split groceries 50-50 since we eat very similar stuff. But lately, she's been eating way more than me. Midnight snacks, full leftovers that I was saving, etc. I would come home to find the fridge empty and she would just say, "Oh, I'll replace it later," which definitely rarely happens. I told her this week that from now on, I'll buy my own groceries and label them and she can do the same. Well, when I said that, she immediately got offended and said that I'm being passive aggressive instead of communicating like an adult. And now she's making weird comments, saying stuff like, "Oh, don't worry, that's your yogurt." Or she'll say something like, "I guess I'm not allowed to touch anything anymore." And honestly, I just don't want to keep paying for food that I don't get to eat. So seriously, am I the jerk for like ending the shared grocery system? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated and I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, no, you're not the jerk here because obviously your friend is taking advantage of you. Like, Jess is basically raiding the fridge and trying to be like, "Oh yeah, I'll replace it," but then never does anything about it. Like, people who act like that are super annoying, dude. Like, just replace it if you actually use it. And honestly, the only reason she's getting pissed off is because you're literally putting down a boundary. You're essentially saying, hey, what you're doing is messed up and this is not setting well with her, even though what you're saying is true. Like, she's going through all your stuff all the time, man. I'd be so pissed off if that was me. So no, you're not the jerk because Jess, in my opinion, is being super entitled. My human resources director gives me literally no time in getting my paperwork together so that I can officially go on disability. But thankfully, karma was on my side because after my doctor found out about the way I was getting treated, my doctor fired back in a scathing email, putting my director in her place in a way that she definitely will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been struggling with my mental health for many years, and up until a few months ago, I was still able to keep up at work, even though extreme client pressure was definitely on my shoulders. Then I started begging for help because I was struggling a lot. They promised to move me to a different team with less pressure, but kept moving the goalpost, telling me that they couldn't find a replacement due to client requirements. Well, early this morning, they ambushed me with a meeting with our human resources director to basically give me two options. Either I get fired after a disciplinary hearing, or I go on disability. I've been begging for disability for months, so naturally, I was really happy to go with option 2, as I have good income insurance through the company. But then the human resources jerk demanded that I get the doctor's paperwork done today. I'd already been in contact with the doctor, and she couldn't get it done because she just returned from leave and had a huge backlog. But despite that, the human resources jerk demanded that I go to the doctor's office to get it done today. And my God, I was feeling utterly malicious when I complied. Even though it meant a 2-hour drive with the distance and traffic, I got there and managed to chat with my doctor for 2 minutes in between appointments, and she requested permission to be very rude to this HR lady, and I told her that she absolutely can go for it. I don't know what she said in that email, but the HR lady was suddenly very reasonable, and now I have a full week to get the paperwork done. And you know what? Now I'm pretty happy. The human resources lady is like the wife of the CEO, and the company is about to take a huge hit because the client has found alternatives, so it's going to hugely hit their bank accounts. It gives me a very happy, fuzzy feeling. I mean, I gave years of loyal service, and they are definitely going to get their karma very soon, even if my malicious compliance is just a small drop in the bucket. Yeah, that human resources lady was completely unreasonable. Like, that was really toxic. I don't care who you are. To be like, okay, well, you got 2 options, and I know you want the second option, so guess what? You gotta do it today. It's like, dude, you are so crazy. That is so weird in my opinion. You obviously have an employee who's struggling to do their work because of all the struggles and like the mental health issues they're going through, and now you're making it even worse at this last like tail end of getting on disability by basically making this person chase the carrot on a stick. Like, dude, this is so stupid. So just like the original poster, I have a lot of hope that karma will come and bite her in the butt because this is some unacceptable behavior and incredibly unprofessional. Today, I offered my boyfriend my job because he's been struggling to find one, but instead of being grateful about it, he decided to nitpick it and basically shut it down, putting me in a situation where I'm super frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so here's the situation I'm in because it is kind of tricky. My boyfriend and I are both full-time college students. I'm in accounting and he's in elementary education. He's been struggling to find a job for months, getting either rejections or no responses at all. And last month, I even gave him $100 for gas just to help him get by. Now, recently, I injured both of my hands, and my job doesn't want me working anymore because of it. My dad and I were going to split the work temporarily, but my supervisor mentioned that they're open to hiring someone new. I thought this could be a great opportunity for my boyfriend, as it would be steady hours, about 25 hours a week, and it would be guaranteed income. So I called him up just to tell him about it. But his reaction to all of this when I told him was complaining about it. He said, "Don't you realize I'd have to wait around in town for 4 hours before my shift starts?" And honestly, that really hurt. I spent years juggling work and classes, waiting around between classes and shifts because I had to, and it's not something I ever did because it was convenient. I just thought he would be grateful or at least more open to the idea and not be dismissive. It feels like a slap in the face after I rewrote his resume, offered him my job, and tried to help him out, and he still managed to find something negative about all of this. Not to mention that I've consistently worked throughout college because I didn't want my dad paying for everything for me. A lot of the reason why I don't think he's gotten a job yet is simply because he's only had one job that he had worked for like 3 to 4 months, whereas this job would basically be a guarantee. So then he got upset at me for being frustrated, saying that I was being rude for getting angry, and he said he was just trying to say how he felt. So now I just don't know if I'm overreacting here, or if I'm even justified in feeling the way that I do, because right now I really feel like I'm at a loss and I don't know what to do. No, you're not overreacting. If anything, your boyfriend is kind of like gaslighting you a little bit because your reaction doesn't sound like it's over the top or anything like that. Like, you're seriously just trying to help your boyfriend out and he's going to be like, "Wow, I've got to wait around 4 hours for my shift. Are you kidding me?" And it's like, buddy, you can either work and like have some kind of income, or you can sit there and complain about not having a job. Like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. So no, you're definitely not overreacting because you're just trying to help this guy out, and the way he's acting is incredibly entitled and very ungrateful. My high school bully makes my life a living nightmare after I tell some teachers exactly the way he's treating me, putting me in a situation that honestly I never thought I'd ever get out of. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, on my first high school year, I met someone who I will call Richard. And Richard and I managed to get along and form a little group of friends. And we were a bit like nerdy outcasts. After some months though, Richard thought it would be fun to ride me in the playground like if I were a horse. Now, I didn't want to do this, but Richard, laughing the entire time, would not have it. So he literally made me fall and crawl in the ground just so he could ride my back and treat me like a horse. I told my teachers about this, and they called him and did a little investigation, but at the end of the day, they just dismissed it as child things. But Richard would not forget what I told them. He thought it was a friendly joke, and thus despised me for telling on him. So he began taking any chance he could to mock me and crush my dwindling self-esteem. But I had been bullied in primary school, so I absolutely could take it. My classmates retaliated, but I did not. And to be completely honest, they wanted to fight, not to defend me. But one day, a very subtle chance for me to retaliate suddenly came around. It was PE class and I had to go back to the locker room, and in the locker room there were like 2 showers that, by the way, were closed for public use and you had to basically have a key to use them. But the walls around them did not reach the ceiling. I then saw Richard's backpack standing right there, and so I grabbed it and I threw it over the wall into the shower and I left it there. Once the class ended, I see him anxiously look for his backpack. Well, we went to the next class without him, and of course Richard came very late saying, "Who
whoever did this is going to regret it. The teachers are looking for him right now.
But there was literally no proof of me being the perpetrator in the first place. However, he did not stop insulting me. So in another PE class, I again used the locker room to my advantage. You see, the doors to that room don't have any handles. The only way to open them was to have a key. So with some rapid hand movement, I closed the door when Richard was the only person in the room. The PE class kept going without him, even though I could hear him aggressively knocking, but no one else seemed to notice for a long time. That is until the teacher realized half an hour later and used the key to open the door. Richard then came out covered in sweat, but once again, there was absolutely no proof against me. He just looked at me with sheer wrath, like he knew it was me in some way, but he knew that he couldn't accuse me because the classmates and their desire to pick on him would defend me and cover me up. Now, he did not stop messing with me, but he did do it a little bit less. But regardless, at least I got to retaliate in my own ways. I would eventually have to wait 3 years for him to leave my school, but never again did he have any other sort of friends or anything like that, because people knew the kind of person that he truly was. Man, I remember in high school, I had friends like this who suddenly turned on me and made me the butt of the joke. And this is a horrifying feeling. Seriously, it sucks so much. You think you have a special group of friends you can hang out with and feel protected around, but in reality, they're just another set of bullies who are just gonna try and mess with you. And I've also had the experience where the teachers do their supposed investigation and they come back and be like, oh, they were just being childish. This is nothing to investigate. Only for this crap to keep going on and no one believe you. That is the most infuriating part. You tell an adult and then the adult doesn't do anything about it. They say, oh, well, this is just kids being kids. Can't do anything about it. Sorry. And then they just throw you back to the wolves and it's like, oh, okay, nothing got done. I'm still getting messed with every single day and my life is miserable. Great. Now I have a target on my back and I'm just gonna get it even worse. So yeah, this bully is a complete jerk. I'm so glad you finally got away from him. But in my opinion, if the teachers simply did their job, then all of this could have been solved much sooner than later. Am I the jerk for not wanting my parents or my brother to use my girlfriend's car while she's away? Because she specifically loaned it to me and not to them. But despite that, they're still trying to guilt trip me into handing it over, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my girlfriend went on vacation for a week, and she left me her car so that I could get to work. I still live with my parents and I don't have my own car right now, but she trusted me with hers since she knows I'd be responsible with it. Now, here's where the real problem starts. My dad already asked if my mom could use my girlfriend's car to drive my brother to work. My brother is 31 years old. He doesn't have a license and makes more money than me, my dad, and my girlfriend. Now, for a bit of background and some context here, I wasn't working for a while, so I had not been contributing financially at home. I was in school for 2 years, and before that, I wasn't working due to some mental health issues. Plus, finding a job was really difficult. My brother was giving my parents money each month, but sometimes he would hold it back or skip gas money if he was mad that I wasn't paying. I've been trying to make up for it by helping out by doing drives and errands and basically saying yes whenever they need something just to show that I'm pulling my weight. Now, I know I shouldn't be relying on them at my age. Trust me, the embarrassment alone is tolling on me every single day, and I'm actively trying to work on it. But the problem is, they guilt trip me into doing things. If I say no or even hesitate, it turns into comments about how I wasn't contributing before or how my brother has been helping more financially. And if I bring it up, they get upset and act like I'm being ungrateful or difficult. It feels like no matter what I do, I owe them more and more. Last night, I needed a ride to pick up my girlfriend's car before taking her to the airport. But my parents, of course, said it was too far, so they just drove me to the train station instead. I took the train, I thanked them for driving me, my girlfriend picked me up, and I got her car. I then took her to the airport early this morning, and then I came back home. I really wanted to just relax for a bit after that, but as soon as I got home, my parents asked me to go pick up my brother. But here's the thing, I used their car and not hers, but it just annoyed me because I'd been running around nonstop. Then later, my dad brought up that maybe my mom could use my girlfriend's car just to drive my brother to work. I then told him that's not right and that it's not my car to lend out. My girlfriend gave it to me to get to work, not as a spare family vehicle. He said that he understands, but then added in, well, it depends on the situation, which basically means that I'm still guilted into saying yes if they want to use it. But regardless, it's really frustrating because I'm finally working again and trying to rebuild stability and move out. And the very first day I have access to this car, it's already being pulled into catering for literally everybody else. My brother is 30 years old and doesn't even drive, and I really think that shouldn't be falling on my shoulders. Plus, if anything happens to my girlfriend's car, I'm the one who's responsible and not them. So am I the jerk for refusing to let my family use my girlfriend's car and for being frustrated about always being guilt-tripped into driving my brother around? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, you absolutely are not the jerk. If you want your girlfriend to break up with you, just allow them to use that car and possibly wreck it. Because actually, if there was an accident, you wouldn't be at fault. The person driving the car would be at fault. They would be responsible for pretty much all that crap, and that would fall on them and not you. And I can guarantee you that that would probably end your relationship, but with that in mind, I would not want to risk it. Like, if you give out that car and something happens, you're basically gambling your future with your girlfriend and having the option to finally get out of that house. Which, by the way, if I was in your shoes, I would be getting out of there much sooner than later, but I totally understand where you're coming from. So no, you're not the jerk. Your parents and family are just complete idiots in my opinion, and I would not listen to them for a single second. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel, and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.